Here we are.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world, and welcome to this online PRIMS meeting. My name is Raffaella Marchese. I'm the coordinator of the PRIMS Standing Committee. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for choosing to spend this afternoon with us. Before I walk you through today's agenda and before I share with you the rules of the games, as we call them, I'd like to call on the screen the other 8 members of the Standing Committee. Grazia Grossi from the Netherlands, Manuela Ville from Germany, Martín Barrer from Argentina, Sergio Álvarez Rubio from France, Felix Ordeich from Spain, Claudia Ricci from Italy, and we don't have Sharona Volkovic from Costa Rica and Veronica Cioni from the Netherlands for this afternoon session. They were with us this morning. Unfortunately, because of family commitments, they couldn't be with us today. I want to thank my friends from PRIMS. It's always a pleasure to work with all of you. They have put so much time into organizing this. So thank you guys, thank you friends, I would say. And thank you for Martin, who has been up all night for being with us today. He wanted to be here for this session where we will have more friends from the Americas. This morning we had a fantastic turnout, like 200, over 200 people. And we were so happy to have friends from Asia, from countries as far as China, Taiwan, Australia, Cambodia, Japan, Russia, and of course, lots of friends from Europe. But now we're really eager to listen to all of you from the other side of the globe. So as I said, a few housekeepings. This session is being recorded. We need it for reference purposes. And let me also remind you that this is an AIIC only event. It's for members, candidates, pre-candidates. So it's among family members. We can talk as freely as we want. Remember that when you take the floor, and I will explain in a minute how you do it, you should make sure that your full name is under your profile, because we want to know who we are giving the floor to and who's speaking, since your face will be not on the screen. You will not be visible. We will be hearing your voice, see your name, but we won't be able to see your screen. And also, please remind then when you ask for the floor and you take the floor, you are waiving your privacy rights. We are going to write a report about this meeting and the meeting we had this morning. And of course, we will be sharing both with you and with EXCO. Finally, let me remind you that there is a service of simultaneous interpretation being provided from French into English. And I want to thank our amazing colleagues who are devoting their Saturday to the course. And it's, let me read through the list. Today we have Hugo Poulet, Felix Odech, Chris Richaud de Fortis, and Françoise Comte. Thank you very much. Round of applause from all of us. Thank you. We really appreciate. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay. So that's the standing committee. Let's stay there for a while. So it's been a while since we met in person. It was January 2019. It sounds like ages ago. That was the last time we met in person in Lyon. Many of you were there. And that was a couple of weeks before our countries went into lockdown and before our professional life was turned upside down forever, I would say. After Lyon, we organized 2 online meetings, our Donut 1 and Donut 2, which we knew were not really the best way of sharing experiences and discuss. It was a one-lane kind of approach to meetings. We knew that, but that was all we could do at that time. The purpose of those meetings was just to stay in touch with you, to feel part of the big AIIC family, but we knew we couldn't really have a debate and discuss as we are used to. But then months went by, we were all adapting to the new way of life, to the new way of working, and the web was really throbbing with so many activities, trainings, sessions, online sessions, meetings of any kind, and we thought there was already too much going on online. We couldn't feel that we were needed. So we stepped back and we decided to do other things that could be useful for everyone. And you might have used our Tips for Speaker project. Let me remind you that the tips are available. You can download them from the AIIC website in 15 different languages. And of course, PRIMS and the Standing Committee was very much involved in other behind the scene activities with other groups and committees in AIIC, with the AB, of course. And it was actually after one of those activities that we decided it was about time we met up again with the sector. EXCO and our president had organized a very interesting session with members of the AB. And the discussion was really interesting, but people would come to me and to the rest of the standing committee asking, so what's the take of PRIMS? So what does PRIMS think about this or that? What do you do in PRIMS? And for me and for the rest of the standing committee, it was really difficult to reply, because the last time we had met and the last time we had discussed about distance interpreting, the world was completely different and people's opinion were very different. So we couldn't answer, really. It was just guessing on our part. And we thought we really need to take the pulse of the sector again. So we decided, let's do something. We were a bit hesitant because it's not easy to organize a real debate online, particularly with the numbers that we have. For the first donut, we had 500 people. The second one, 700 people. This morning we had 200. There are, I don't know how many now, but we had 340 registrations for the afternoon. So we decided to run the two identical sessions, one in the morning and this one in the afternoon, Europe-wise. We thought this would accommodate for the different time zones that we have in AIIC, and would also mean that we would have had less participants in each session, so probably conversation would have been easier. So that's what we have done. We have organized these two meetings to really take the pulse and the temperature of the sector. We have decided to organize the meeting into two sessions. Sorry, I'm using this morning's slides with the times for this morning, but nevertheless, we will have a first 1.5 hour session with two segments, segment 1 and segment 2. Then we will have a coffee break. We call it a bring your own donut coffee break. Then we will have a second session with two segments, segments 3 and 4. We will have a discussion after segment 2, 3 and 4. We will not have a discussion after segment 1. I forgot to tell you that we will start each segment with a set of questions. And let me say something about these questions. This is not going to be a scientific data gathering exercise. We're not here to run a scientific survey. This is not the aim. Our friends from AIIC, Marta Buchan and Camille Couillard, they were with us during the first meeting this morning. They've done a brilliant job. They have conducted a very thorough survey, and I think they had over 600 respondents, and they are going to publish their results in the coming weeks. We had an opportunity to see the preliminary findings. They were kind enough to share their preliminary findings with the standing committee, and the results are quite stunning, I must say. So they've done a brilliant job. We're not going to repeat what they have already done. Our aim is different. We're going to ask you a few questions as an icebreaker, just to set the tone for the discussion. We want to have a discussion with you. And we want as many of you to participate. We want this to be as lively as possible. But to do so, we have to be strict, disciplined, and abide by the rules. And let's go through the rules. The first rule is that you have to raise your hand to ask for the floor. And you do it by using the raise your hand button at the end, in the lower bar on the right side, sorry. Make sure, as I said before, that you display your full name, because as I said, this will help us see who's asking for the floor. When we give you the floor, we will give you authorization to unmute your mic. When you unmuted yourself, you have 2 minutes to make your point, 2 minutes to get your message across, and we will be very strict and apologize. We won't do it out of rudeness, but we will have to mute you after 2 minutes. We don't want to be rude. We just want to be strict and give as many people the floor as possible. And priority will be given to people who have not taken the floor yet. So if there is a queue, you don't see who has risen their hand. We will see it in the background, and the hands will appear on our screen in chronological order. So we know who's asked for the floor first, and we will give those people the floor. I've already covered this. You can also use the Q&A channel to put your comments through and also to ask questions. We will be monitoring that channel. We will not be monitoring the chat, but you can use the chat just to say hello to your friends or to discuss among yourselves, but we will not be monitoring that chat. It's too much work. Also, please, let's not name names. We're here to discuss in general terms, so let's keep it general. Let's talk about general principles. Also, let me remind you that we are here and we are participating in our personal capacity as members, individual members of AIIC, all of us. And finally, let's be open, let's be eager to listen also to opinions that might be very different from our own. And I invite those who might have a different opinion to voice it. We are here to listen. So some of the questions will lead to certain answers. We know where the majority is going, but we're interested in listening also to minority views. So please take the floor and talk. So I apologize again, the timing is the wrong one. I'm using the wrong in PowerPoint presentation, but we will start with segment 1, and we will be talking about our personal attitude toward distance interpreting right at the beginning of the pandemic. Then we will have a second segment, and in this segment we will be talking about our professional life over the last 14 months. Has it changed? How it changed? And we will have a discussion at the end of the questions for segment 2. Then we will run you through a set of proposals coming from the Standing Committee of PRIMS, and a proposed action plan. We will talk about it later. Then we will have our coffee break, our bring your own donut, half an hour coffee break. When we resume from the coffee break, we will have segment 3, which will be about the working condition in distance interpreting. And finally, segment 4 will be about the future of distance interpreting and the future of AIIC, probably. So I think I'm done with my introduction, and I can now give the floor to Claudia, who will take us through the first segment. I'll stop sharing my screen. And I think, Claudia, you can come up on screen. Great, thank you. Your mic is off.
Too much multitasking, sorry. Thank you very much, Raffaella, and thank you all for being with us on a Saturday afternoon, morning, evening, depending on where you are. So happy to have you here with us. As Raffaella has already mentioned, we will be going through a number of questions, and the 6 questions that I will be sharing with you in a minute focus on the past, which is why there will be no discussion after this segment of our questionnaire. It's mainly meant to take stock of the situation and take the pulse of the sector as to where we stand with DI, distance interpretation, so far, and then we will pass on to the present and the future. And of course, discussion about the future is much more interesting than discussing the present. So we, first of all, to clarify, having had this morning's experience, what we mean by DI, distance interpretation, that includes both interpretation from hubs and from your own home in extremis, as we used to call it, now collocated RSI, remote simultaneous interpretation. So that includes both settings, and also it includes meetings large and small. This morning someone asked whether interpreting for a board of director meetings qualified as distance interpretation. Of course it does. If you are working simultaneously, at the same time, as people say, that qualifies as distance interpretation, as long as you're not present in the same place as the speakers and the audience. Another thing that we wanted to point out after this morning's session is that you're kindly requested to please rename yourselves with your forename, given name and surname, and remove any logos that you might have of any commercial ventures or your own business practice, etc. Now, moving on to the nitty-gritty, the COVID-19 pandemic has, of course, caused widespread disruptions to our professional and private lives. It has caused unprecedented and devastating effects. It has led to the emergence of a new normal. We hope it doesn't stay with us forever. At least, the pandemic situation, we don't know where DI will take us in the future. But what we know is that definitely many of us were forced to venture into previously nearly uncharted territory without much preparation. Even those of us who had been more active on this front, for example, if you were with us in London, you will have had a chance to test 6 commercial operators. But still, I don't think we were prepared for what came sort of suddenly, I must say, at least personally, I wasn't. So we had to embrace a revolution that we were probably at least to some degree skeptical about prior to the pandemic, but there was no alternative. So what we would like to learn is how your attitudes and opinions have changed over the last 12 months, say. Now, nearly on to the questions, a couple of explanations before I move on to that. First of all, be reassured, all your answers are anonymous. And technically speaking, some of the questions will require only one answer, whereas others will allow you for a multiple choice. So you can give more than one response. And so let us start. I will be starting my own polls. Say, hopefully this is now on your screens. So the first question is, how did you react to the novelty of distance interpreting? I opposed the novelty and was not interested. I was skeptical, but I did my best to learn. I was really interested and eager to learn. I will give you time to enter your answers to this. And let's see how it's going. Rising up, nearly 80%. So it's going up. And I think, we see there were only very few colleagues, apparently only 4 of us were totally opposed to the novelty. And as for the second and the third answer, there seems to be, I wouldn't say an even situation, but sort of spread out replies. So let's see if anyone else is eager to vote. I will be ending the poll. We were hoping to reach at least 90% of voters, which is not the case yet. So don't be shy. I will give it 1 or 2 seconds more. And then I think I can end this poll and share the results with you. So these are the results. You probably couldn't see them in real time, which I could. That's what I meant when I said that the second and third answers got nearly similar number of replies. Leaving you a few seconds. This morning, colleagues asked us to keep the replies on screen for a bit longer, so hopefully that is enough now. So now, moving on to the second question. It's, do you think that AIIC, either centrally or through your region, has given you sufficient guidance and helped you become more familiar with the new technologies which really abounded on the market? So yes, AIIC provided you with sufficient guidance. Yes, there was some guidance, but I was expecting more. Or I received only minimal guidance, or no, absolutely no guidance. Go ahead, take your vote, have your say. I will give you a few seconds. Let's see if we can get that figure to increase a bit more. It's your chance to have your say and let us know whether you were expecting more. I can only share the results once the poll has ended, so by then it will be too late to cast your vote. I can see that the number of answers coming in is slightly tapering down, so I think I can end the poll and share the results with you. So here again, we have some interesting results. And I think that, you know, the positive thing is that a good 70%, 70+% of participants got some guidance. They thought it was enough, or maybe not, but it's at least they got some guidance in this wide sea that we were faced with. All right, so now not moving on to question number 3, which regards your personal attitude to distance interpretation. The question is, if you were initially resistant to distance interpretation, your reaction was due to the fact that, in your opinion, life was going to go back to normal pretty soon. The pandemic would be over in a matter of months, and it wasn't really worth your time investing into learning a new technology or buying new equipment. Or you thought that DI was only a temporary solution as it was not going to replace traditional conference interpreting. And answer C, I simply hated the very idea of DI over my dead body, as some colleagues have put it. Or reply number 4, this was not the profession I had studied for, it's not what I signed in for, and I just don't want to have anything to do it. So I will let you answer the question, maybe read the answers again if you want. So I'll give you some more time to go through them. There you go. Keep them coming. We need a bit more. You can do better. You have done better in other answers. Or maybe it is because only those of you who were resistant to DI initially are replying this question. So maybe it's sort of stabilizing again. Okay, so I will end the poll and share the results with you. So the majority thought that it was not going to replace traditional conference interpreting, and hopefully that will not be the case even after the pandemic is over. We'll see during the discussion. I'm really looking forward to having your opinions there. So stop sharing question number 3, And now I will be moving on to the last three questions for this segment, focusing on distance interpretation from hubs. So as the saying goes, every cloud has a silver lining. The pandemic was definitely a gray, massive, scary cloud. Let's see whether you think that hubs were the silver lining in the situation there. Apologies if I probably forgot to share the results to the previous question. I'm really multitasking here. So now, question number 4, as I said, on interpretation from hubs. It's a very, very easy one. This is just a yes or no answer. Have you had the chance to work from a hub? Yes or no? I will give you a few more seconds. We did have very quick response on this because it was very clear cut. Either you did or you didn't. But I'll just give you a few more seconds. Okay. I think we have quite a few answers here. So, and a rather clear cut situation. So 2/3 have worked from a hub and 1/3 haven't worked from a hub. I think this differs from this morning's results. It will be interesting to maybe investigate why during one of the discussions we'll have later. And now, for those of you who have indeed worked at a hub, or rather, if you haven't, what was the reason? And here you can select more than one reply. So you haven't worked from a hub because there were no hubs in your region, or because your clients thought that hubs were too expensive. And then the third option is because you, as an interpreter, didn't
Claudia,
see
the question is not on the screen. Could you?
Sorry. My apologies. As I said, I'm really multitasking here. Sorry, I'll go through them again. If you have not worked at a hub before, what was the reason? You can select more than one reply because there are no hubs in your region, because hubs are too expensive for your clients, so they wouldn't pay for them, because you as an interpreter didn't see the benefit compared to working from home, or for other reasons, which we'll then have a chance to possibly thresh out later on. I will give you a bit more time.
Not too much because we're running late.
No, not much. Okay, I think we are now, yeah, we have about 1/3 of the votes. Only 1/3 had replied that they had not worked in a hub. So I think that's pretty much it. Either no hubs in a region or other reasons. And I will now move on to the last question in this segment, which also allows for multiple replies. So if you have worked from a hub, what do you think the main benefits were? Because the technicians were there to provide you with technical assistance, because you were not responsible for power outages, internet failures, road works, or anything else, because you were co-located with your booth mate, or for other reasons. So remember, you can select one or more of the answers currently on screen of the 4 options. I will give you just a few seconds more if Rafael agrees, just maybe 4 seconds. And then I will end the poll. It's still going up. That's why I'm sort of willing to give a little more time. All right, I think we'll stop here, share the results. It's very evenly spread. So that's all from me. Possibly see you later for the final goodbyes, and handing over to Manuela, who will take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Claudia. And hello, everyone. It's great to see so many of you here this morning, afternoon, evening, whatever part of the world you are from. I think we have some 230 participants by now, if I'm right here. And in this next part of questions, we would like to ask you about your professional life over the past 12 months. So we had the feeling that as we are now entering the second year of lockdown, that maybe our opinions and our attitudes have changed based on the experiences of the past year. And PRIMS would like to get a better picture of how your professional life has evolved over this time, how you have fared. So let's get right down to it. The first question we'd like to ask you in this section here is, and if you could show that, please, Claudia. Since the beginning of the pandemic, my conference interpreting activity has, and here you can only give one answer, slowed down, picked up, or stayed the same. So let's see how you have fared in this time. Okay. Oh, we have 81, 82%, 83%, a few more coming in, but I think the picture is pretty much clear here. Business has slowed down for most of us. So thank you for this. Okay, let's move on to the next question here. And this will now apply to the majority of you, because it is, if your conference interpreting activity has slowed down, what, in your opinion, are the main reasons? And here you can choose multiple answers. I'm not going to read them all out to you. You see them on the screen. So please click on those that apply to you. Let us know what you think. What were the reasons why business has slowed down for you? I know this is going to take a bit longer because you have so many choices and have to read through them first. But yeah, so I guess picture is pretty clear here. For most of us, customers simply stopped organizing conferences. And I can tell you that has been my personal experience as well. So, okay, then let's move on to the next question. And this is for only those of you who answered, my conference interpreting activity has picked up during the pandemic. Once again, you have several choices here, and please click on those that apply to you. It's interesting to see here that affordability seems to be a clear factor in favor of DI. 70% of you are saying that. Yeah, thank you very much for that. All right, and I'm just going to give you a little more time to take in the result, because it's more than just a yes/no question. But okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next one then. So this question is, if your conference interpreting activity has slowed down, have you been forced to look for alternative sources of income other than interpreting, like the obvious choice here, written translations or teaching or subtitling? I've heard some people are working on that. Yeah, it seems like 2/3 of you have had to look for other income during this difficult year. Okay, I think this about covers it. So 69% had to look for other income. Thank you. And now the last question in this segment is, here is, how is your market reacting to distance interpreting? And once again here, I think it's just one answer that's possible, or maybe more. Just try for yourselves. We as panelists cannot vote, so I can't try. Well, it's heartening to see that at least clients are not likely to adopt Globish, only in a few cases from the answers we have received here. As in the previous group this morning, it's usually a combination of the reasons given above, but still it seems that clients are growing more confident and more interested in distance interpreting as they learn more about it and have more experience with this. Okay, great. Thank you so much for participating in this poll here. As was said before, we just want to get an idea of how you have fared, how things have been going for you in this past year. And now we will move on to the first round of discussion. And for this, I welcome my co-host here in this discussion, Grazia. Thank you for joining me. And let me remind you, you can also speak French if you like. We have wonderful colleagues who have kindly agreed to interpret for people like me who do not have French. So fire away in English or in French. And just one remark before we start. In this discussion, we would really like to learn from you what has worked well for you. So not so much talk about what went wrong and what did not work. I think we've talked at length about all the problems we've had in the past year at other events. So this time, we would really like to learn more about what went right for you, the creative solutions you came up with to face these challenges that we were impacted by over the past year. So that would be really interesting if you could share your solutions, your best practices, how you successfully handle the challenges of the so-called new normal. Fire away. Do we have any requests for the floor yet?
Yes, we have Lionel from Canada asking for the floor.
Oh, okay.
My dear friend Lionel, he used to be in the Netherlands.
Okay, so Lionel, let me remind me, you have 2 minutes, all of you. There's a stopwatch up there on the screen. And when you're 2 minutes up, please close your remarks so that other people get the chance to take the floor as well. Lionel, you can now unmute your mic.
Actually, I'm pleased to see you. Actually, I'm really sorry. I must have pressed the raise hand button and by mistake. I didn't actually want the floor. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, don't worry about it. Okay, who is next? Anyone else wanting to take the floor?
Robert Alec Yelin.
Okay, please go ahead. You may unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, well, thanks to PRIMS for organizing this. Is excellent. I did not raise my hand, so I'll just get off the mic.
Okay. So anyone who actually would like to talk here and get the ball rolling in our discussion?
But I'm sure you raised your hands. It's not just by mistake.
It was me. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Beth.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Well, I suppose I'm the icebreaker. What I did was I got in touch with my normal sound technicians, my regular sound technicians, I should say, and started to talk about how they could work as a hub and adapt to the new situation. It took a long time to get things off the ground, but that's what I say that I've done, and I'm in a grouping with other interpreters, and some other interpreters contacted other sound technicians, and basically we have 3 or 4 different alternatives. Some are better than others, depending on the situation. None of them are totally ideal. And I think, generally speaking, we're all happy with having done that. That's all for now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear. I think that was the case for many of us. So we just had to sort of realign ourselves and work more with others here. Thank you. Anyone else who asked for the floor?
Barbara.
Oh, Barbara, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. The usual
Yes.
question. Horrible. Thank you. My thing which actually helped me was I have a room in the house which is totally separate. It's in the cellar. And I've set up there with green screen and proper lighting. And I've got 3 computers on a big table. I've got the Ethernet cable for 2 computers, and I've got a Wi-Fi sort of booster, really. And as a result, I can offer fairly decent technical quality for distance interpreting here from my cellar. The bad thing is the colleagues, but if you use the dedicated RSI platforms, I find that actually helps quite a bit. It's a bit of cognitive overload though, with all the chats you have to follow on every computer. But having this dedicated space, which is totally quiet, having the computers, one of which is totally empty, no email client, nothing. So nobody, however good the spyware, can find anything because there's nothing to find. So all of that has helped me a great deal because there was a time when there was nothing but work from home. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for this contribution. And I see that we have 2 more hands raised. There's Anna de Koch first. If you could go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm very far away from Argentina, so maybe my sound quality is not that good. As my colleagues have, thanks Prims initially for this great meeting. And as my colleague has already said, personally, I looked for the assistance of a technician here in Argentina. At the beginning, I was very afraid and totally reluctant. I was never a technology fan, so I was very afraid as to what the technical responsibility was going to be. And with their assistance, I was able to set up a little bit of an RSI kind of room here in my house. But also something that helped me a lot was to share the responsibility with my clients. I am not a technician. I'm an interpreter trying to do RSI from home. So if something goes bad, in spite of everything I do, in spite of all the precautions I take, some things might go wrong. And this shared responsibility with my clients has really helped me a lot because I was very, very stressed about the technical problems. So this is how I try to kind of swim along this terrible turmoil of RSI.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Anna. And I think you're very right. We have to be aware of all the risks involved and not just look at the opportunities without keeping that in mind. And as you were saying, we have to protect ourselves and we have to share responsibilities to the degree that we can. So thank you for this comment. Next, we have Eleonora de Barros. Please go ahead, Eleonora.
Can you listen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm from Rio, I'm Brazilian. And I just wanted to say that in the beginning, I was very reluctant. I had this mauvaise volonté. I was in denial. And then now I accepted it, as everybody has to accept, we have to work. But the fun of the work is gone. I mean, this just being there, this is a wonderful job. See, this is good. This is stressful, but it's good. It's fun. You have clients, you have people. The client comes up to the booth. Oh, I have a better word for you. This, that, and the other thing. You know, it's so alive. And now it's just sad. I'm sorry. That's my feeling. The fun of it is kind of gone. It's sad. But I mean, we have to go. We have to make your living. So you just swallow it, but it's not really fun anymore. I'm sorry to say that. I hope it comes back. At least something ambigu, presence and the TSI too. I'm still hopeful. I hope so. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleonora.
Manuela, I would like just to say to Eleonora that I understand her perfectly. I think we all share this feeling. We all miss in-person meetings, and being with colleagues, share the same booth, and go back to the job we decided to do years ago, in my case, many years ago. And what we do now is different. It's just given, it's not the same quality, it's not the same sort of work. Sorry, I really had to share this feeling.
No, I agree, Grazia. Absolutely. It has changed a lot. We've had to adapt to a lot more than just the new technology. Yes. Okay, next on the list, we have Kirill Flero. Please go ahead, Kirill.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think one of the better parts of that pandemic was that we started paying much more attention to sound quality, because we always took sound quality for granted. We always had technicians who were on site and supporting us. But we suddenly realized that sound quality is paramount, instrumental in what we do. And I'm also very glad that we managed to figure out, at least on my end, we managed to figure out the hearing protection, because the requirement that ISO standard has is that we have to protect ourselves from loud peaks that are louder than 94 decibel within 100 milliseconds. And on my end, I participated actively in creating the remote simultaneous interpretation hub at the Office of Language Services of the Department of State. And we have their hearing protection equipment that provides 3 milliseconds response time, which is 30 times better than what the ISO standard requires. So I'm very glad that we're paying more attention to that. And unfortunately, the solutions that we have are expensive, and they may be difficult to implement for individual interpreters right now, because one setup may be somewhat expensive. But those solutions exist, and I'm very glad that we are paying more attention to sound quality now, and that we are trying to find solutions to resolve the issue. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Kirill. I mean, I think that has been a very steep learning curve for all of us. And I'm actually thankful to those colleagues who have dug deeper into this subject than I have personally been able to. So I think we've learned a lot from all of you who have done so and published about this. So this is really great effort. And next we have Andre Jostin. Please, Andre, go ahead.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking into my usual headset. I'm not working or sitting in my office right at the moment. So thank you, Prims, for organizing that meeting. Just sharing a few experiences with you, how I lived through this rather good year, I would say. At the beginning, I was a bit flabbergasted about the new world arising, but I tried to get into it very rapidly. My customers were not, I usually only work on the private market, so I do not, and I work for my own customers. So I tried to go into this topic, and I was trusting Kudo and the dedicated platforms at the beginning. And then really from September onwards, the customers were asking for solutions, and we could, or I could provide solutions with Kudo, with
I'm sorry, please avoid naming names here.
Oh, sorry.
We don't want to provide PR to anyone, just keep it general.
Because, yes, okay. From September onwards, we had the very common Z platform with the interpretation functionality. And from that onwards, the number of meetings went really steep up and picked up, and I worked much more than before from my own place because I'm quite distant. So it was rather a good experience. All the more the customers were getting familiar. And the important thing about the sound quality is to educate your customers. And I always say before the meeting, no headset with mic, no translation. Was a bit critical at the beginning, and they were a bit angry, and now they are all educated and know they have to use their headset with no headset, no translation, and from that onwards it worked perfectly, and I quite like it, I must admit. Thank you.
Thank you for this contribution, and congratulations that you were able to convince everyone to wear a headset. I'm still working on that, I have to admit. Okay, and next we have Olivier Fléchet. Olivier, please go ahead.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Vous m'entendez?
Yes, we can hear you, Olivier.
Bien, d'accord, je vais parler français pour changer un petit peu. Alors, d'abord, bonjour à tous et à tous. Je suis très heureux de faire partie d'avoir rejoint cette réunion. Je ne suis plus interprète indépendant et je travaille pour une organisation internationale. Je suis co-recruteur. Et en plus de cela, nous sommes basés en Afrique. Et tout ce que je peux vous dire, c'est que nous sommes très, très intéressés par, évidemment, les conditions de travail des indépendants que nous recrutons et que nous faisons un gros travail de soutien technique au préalable auprès des personnes que nous recrutons ponctuellement pour certaines réunions pour venir nous aider. En plus de cela, comme nous sommes en Afrique, non seulement la bande passante, enfin le débit du Wi-Fi et de l'Internet est très mauvais dans certaines régions et excellent dans d'autres régions. Donc, nous avons à voir un gros problème d'inégalité entre les pays. Mais en plus, nous avons un gros problème d'électricité. Donc, si vous n'avez pas d'électricité, il faut s'assurer avec nos partenaires indépendants individuels qu'ils ont tout un système de relais d'électricité pour que tout cela marche. Donc, en Afrique, le contexte est encore plus difficile que dans le reste du monde, je suppose. Et en plus, je crois que malgré tout, les choses vont rester telles quelles pendant très longtemps en Afrique parce que de plus, je pense que les organisations internationales vont voir qu'il y a eu aussi beaucoup d'économies qui ont été faites grâce à l'interprétation à distance. Donc, voilà la situation dans notre région, mais je fais tous mes efforts pour aider les indépendants pour qu'ils soient dans de bonnes conditions. Et nous avons toujours une équipe technique au préalable qui les aide. Merci pour votre attention et bon reste de réunion. Hein.
Merci beaucoup, Olivier, et merci surtout pour faire de votre mieux pour maintenir les bonnes conditions de travail et pour garantir le soutien technique. Sur le marché privé, nous devons faire en sorte de garantir nous-mêmes ces conditions. C'est donc une des raisons pour lesquelles nous sommes ici aujourd'hui et nous remercions les collègues qui travaillent en tant que fonctionnaires parce que votre exemple nous aide toujours. Je repasse la parole à Manuela.
Okay, thank you. And I can imagine that Africa can be challenging, but let me tell you, Europe is no stranger to power interruptions either. So I personally have an uninterrupted power supply for my system here. And I know of many colleagues in Europe who do as well, because if you work from home in extremis, then that's the way to go. Otherwise, the risks are just too high. And now we have Sharon Braverman. Please, Sharon, go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody, and thank you for organizing this. So from Canada, we have a lot of work with the federal government, and there was a big problem with the quality of sound. There still is. What has worked was we actually had to lobby hard on the health and safety side, so that now theoretically they're supposed to use appropriate headsets with appropriate boom microphones. When they do, it is much better, but not all participants do, and many people just don't care. They make up excuses. It's not a question of being rich or poor. We've had major heads of major high-tech corporations who come in with their stupid little iPods, or even worse. So even if people think they're supposed to wear headsets, but then they'll put on some cheapy little thing with a horrible mic, not the appropriate ones. The other thing that helps is when there are sound tests with every participant who will actually be taking the floor, and if they're conducted before the meeting starts, because ridiculously enough, very often the sound test takes place and it's with the meeting coordinator who is not even located in the same place. So I don't know how people have increased awareness or people's goodwill in being willing to use the equipment that helps and being able to obtain it, but any suggestions would be most appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Sharon. And we have time for just 2 more comments here. First, we have Camille Mercier-Sanders. Please go ahead, Camille.
Oui, bonjour, je vais vous parler en français. pour parler des aspects positifs, je pense que ce qui m'a peut-être étonné le plus, c'est le fait que les clients veulent de l'interprétation. Et je pense qu'on avait, notamment en français-anglais, en étant basé en France, parfois l'impression que c'était une question purement protocolaire ou que voilà, c'était des habitudes du passé qui se pérennisaient, mais qu'à la première occasion, on allait tous parler globish et que les interprètes finalement étaient un coût dont on allait se débarrasser dès que ce serait possible. Et finalement, ça ne s'est pas passé. Et pendant cette crise, les clients ont cherché des solutions et je trouve que ça a été l'occasion de renouer un dialogue avec les clients, pas uniquement sur les tarifs, pas uniquement en défense de nos conditions, de nos tarifs, mais pour trouver ensemble des solutions avec les clients. Et je trouve que ça, c'était un aspect assez inattendu de la crise et que ça s'est vérifié dans les organisations internationales. Bon, il y a certes des obligations, mais par ailleurs, au-delà des obligations des organisations et aussi sur le marché privé, j'ai trouvé que finalement, ça a été l'occasion de renouer un dialogue et peut-être parler d'autres choses que uniquement de tarifs, mais de conditions de travail, voilà, qu'on soit tous dans le même bateau. Et je trouve que ça a été assez positif finalement.
Merci pour ce commentaire positif, parce qu'on voit qu'il y a aussi des choses positives qui résultent de ces gros changements que nous avons au début subis et qu'on commence maintenant à bien maîtriser. Je crois qu'on peut prendre encore un dernier commentaire. C'est Sylvie, et après, je suis désolée, il faut qu'on arrête. Merci.
Okay, I seem to be the dinosaur here. I've been in the profession for nearly 50 years, and I'm still in it, yes, believe it or not, because as I would say in German, but I'm going to transpose it best I can, I have all my marbles. It's a box that keeps them in that's falling apart, okay? So in my case, it is actually an advantage to be working from home. Even a hub is no good. I am not as mobile as I used to be. I cannot race around the place anymore, but I can still use my brain. So it is brilliant. I'm pretty technophobe, but I have given birth to a techno geek. So I actually pay him to be my technician when I need him. I'm not working that widely, that much, that I need him all the time. He's freelance as well. He's in IT. And when I need him, even if he's at the other end of town or in another part of the country, of course, we can link our computers, etc. And he's there for me. So, of course, if you can have somebody like that, one of my private clients said to me, at last, an interpreter who has their own technician. He was over the moon. And I think that is something that they appreciate. If they don't have that, it was a small client, not a huge client, of course. But I make them sign a disclaimer, because you are not responsible for your link to the, internet. And I make sure that all my equipment I have twice. So I don't have just one mic, I have two mics. I have everything double. So if one doesn't work, I can grab the next one. And I try to do as much consecutive as I can on Zoom, because that is, the easiest, technically speaking as well. But consecutive, I think, is a dark art that is getting lost. So this is where the oldies like me come in, okay? So this is my experience, and I am just at the beginning of a huge project that I will not mention here, of course, but I thought I would retire and become a dog trainer, but I'm still interpreting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvie. That was very interesting. And thank you all in this very interesting session. Thank you for your thought-provoking input. I'd also like to thank my co-host, Grazia. And now we will hand over to Rafaela.
Is it? Is it really my turn?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yes. Sorry. It's quite long. It's been quite a long day. Yes, it's my turn now, and I need to share my screen again, because we would like to take you through a very short presentation about some of the challenges that the PRIMS Standing Committee sees on the market. And we are also here to suggest and put forth a few ideas, a few actions that we might put in place as an association to tackle those challenges. And we want to see what you think about them. So the first challenge we see on the market is English-only meetings. Because of all the difficulties that everyone is faced with, we've seen clients, and this was also what you replied during the previous polls, many clients have decided to opt for English-only meetings. I mean, this has always been a challenge, even when we were meeting in person, but it looks like an even more daring challenge nowadays. Setting up a multilingual online service is not easy for many clients. Of course, I'm not referring to the big ones. They have the financial and human resources to do that. But when it comes to a small client for whom we might have provided simultaneous interpretation services once or twice a year, it might be difficult to organize a multilingual conference. So many of them have opted for English-only meetings. They say, no, we get by, we all speak English, we manage. And that's definitely a problem for us. So what can we do as an association? That's the Standing Committee of PRIMS proposal to tackle this first challenge. We think AIIC should launch an effective campaign at different levels to a campaign focusing on the benefits of multilingualism. But we should do this putting ourselves in the shoes of the MICE industry. MICE, it's an acronym standing for meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. It's our industry, is the industry we belong to, but we rarely think of it as our own industry. So I think AIIC should be there. We should be speaking at those conferences. And when I say speaking at those conferences, I'm not thinking about conferences organized by and for linguists. I'm not thinking about academic conferences. That's very important as well. But here I'm thinking about conferences where business happens, where our clients participate. We have to be there. We have to talk about the value of multilingualism and the impact of multilingualism on return on investments. Because organizing an event is expensive. And we know that if you offer simultaneous interpretation, you get more money for what you are spending on that event. At the same time, we should also organize, AIIC should organize a social media campaign focusing on the value of multilingualism. We should be posting articles and posts in MICE magazines and journals. I think the absence of AIIC from those journals is really deafening. We should do something to be there. There are so many interesting podcasts organized by players such as IBTM. IBTM is one of the world's largest MICE conferencing. The conferences taking place every year in Barcelona. They have a very interesting podcast. Well, I think we should make our best to make sure that our president or our most prominent representatives are there speaking on behalf of AIIC about the role of multilingualism. And I also think that AIIC should, or we, the Standing Committee, thinks that we should be sponsoring a research on the impact of quality multilingualism on productivity. We've come across a very interesting piece of research by Alfred Presbitero from a university in Australia, business university in Australia. He has published very interesting results about how productivity increases when when teams, including participants from different countries, work using their own mother tongue rather than using a language that is imposed upon them, not necessarily English. In that case, the study, for example, was about Danish being imposed as the common language. I think we should get involved with researchers, business researchers of this kind to show, and maybe we could partner with other big mice industry associations, such as MPI International, for example, to sponsor a study on how much event productivity goes up when everybody can be involved using and engaged using speaking and listening to their own mother tongue. So that's the first challenge and the first action that we suggest. Challenge number 2 is competition going from local to global. We used to know who our competitors were. We more or less knew them in person, or we had heard about them. We knew where competition was coming from. Nowadays, we don't. On the market, there are so many people offering our own language combination from different countries. They might ask for different fees. They might have a completely different business model. And most of all, we don't know them. And when you don't know your competitors, it's much harder to fight on the same footing. And so what can we do to tackle this challenge? Well, we think that we might need the help of a professional to do this. But again, we think we should engage in a campaign to show why AIIC interpreters differ and why it is worth recruiting us. Again, a communication campaign might be needed, articles, social media posts, presentations at industry conferences. We have to talk about what it takes to become an AIIC interpreter. Many associations only require members to pay a fee, and they're quickly in. For us, it is different. Our peer-to-peer selection process is very different. We don't talk about it enough, I think. We have to talk about assignment preparation, the quality that we can offer. Third challenge, will the big fish eat the little fish? What do we mean? Well, we mean that there is a lot of activity going on the market. We've seen a flurry of acquisitions and mergers. The other day, I read an article in the Italian papers talking about this big acquisition with a big Italian player buying other competitors. They are now being turned into the one of the biggest language service provider in Europe. Well, how can we face this type of competition? Are we, as individual members of AIIC, strong enough to face these big competitors? It's not easy. So we should join forces and become stronger together. How do we become stronger together? Well, we think that in order to sell the AIIC brand outside, we have to believe in the strength and the power of the AIIC brand ourselves. And I don't think this is the case. I hear so many colleagues complaining that AIIC is not doing enough, that AIIC there, AIIC this and AIIC that. Well, AIIC is us. Every one of us is AIIC. And there is so much we can do ourselves to vouch for AIIC, to promote AIIC. We have to become more aware of the strength and the benefits that being an AIIC member imply. We have so many tools available in AIIC to promote the AIIC brand. I think not many of us use them. The Brand and Visibility Committee, which existed up until a few months ago, and it was led by Luisa Malentaki, I was also a member of it, the Brand and Visibility has prepared so much material. We are not using it, the CV builder, And the very recent Vega campaign that was put together by the Brand Visibility Group, that's an extraordinary tool that we should be using more. And then I think a stronger role should be given to consultant interpreters. That's, in my opinion, a untapped asset that we have in AIIC. Probably some of the rules of the games for consultant interpreters should be revised. Probably that's the big hindrance to many of us becoming a consultant interpreter, but that's an incredible asset, an incredible resource that we have in AIIC. So I strongly believe we should do something to make this group more active and more prominent in the association. Challenge 4, it's shorter and shorter meetings. Because of the online format, we've seen it. Our meetings are becoming shorter. And this means that very often we get funny requests from clients. Could you work on your own? Could you do it on your own? You know, it's just 15 minutes and then you've got the questions and meetings become longer and longer. There are reasons why we have rules. There are reasons why we want 2 people in the booth. Well, we should talk about it. We should, but again, we should talk about those rules and those working conditions, putting ourselves in the shoes of our clients, putting ourselves in the shoes of the MICE industry, of meeting planners. We should explain what they have to gain by having 2 interpreters, for example. It's not just because it's easier for us, it's also because they get better quality. It's also because they get more reassurance, peace of mind. If something goes wrong from a technical point of view, now that we are online, it's much better to have 2 people. And there is, you know, the teamwork, but we have to show that from their perspective rather than our perspective. And then probably this is the big elephant in the room, the distance interpreting marketplaces. We don't like this. Many of us don't like the idea of being an item on a marketplace. But again, this entails so many things. And I think we have to speak about these issues, putting ourselves in the shoes of our clients. And this would lead us to a question, which is, should AIIC have a proprietary solution? That's very difficult. I know AIIC is not a commercial enterprise, or it's not a commercial entity, but maybe there are different ways of tackling this. Maybe instead of developing our solution, we could partner with existing solutions and finding common benefits, you know, finding a way to have a better prominence on those platforms and to be more prominent, and a way of making our working conditions more acceptable for everyone. But I think there are several alternatives that can be explored. So this was let me stop sharing my screen. So that was our set of actions that we see to face what, in our opinion, are the biggest challenging for the market. With this, I invite you to break for coffee. You know, think about these things over a nice coffee or a cup of tea. Please do not disconnect. It'll be easier to start in half an hour. I think, yes. So we are starting again at what time? Sorry, can anyone help me with the time? What time are we starting? Sorry?
6:45.
Past 45.
Okay, 6:45 CEST, Central European time. So enjoy your coffee and see you in half an hour. Thank you.
Françoise, on va juste faire un test pour voir si ça marche. Donc, je t'écoute sur le canal anglais, si tu veux bien. Ça marche. Super. C'est parfait. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, that's
Merci.
good. That's good because I couldn't add Françoise as an interpreter because she's already in as an interpreter according to Zoom. So it's good that everything seems to be working. I cannot hear you, Françoise, because I'm listening to the original. Just give me a second on English. I can hear you now. Yeah, that means you are currently assigned. Yeah. Oh, classical. Yeah. All right. Enjoy the break.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed your donut or your pastry or whatever you're eating this time of the day, which may be noon in my case, it may be in the morning, it may be in the afternoon, or late in the evening. I would like first to tell you congratulations for just being here with us. And thank you very much. We really appreciate your being here. We have a list of participants that is very big. We have 233 participants right now. And we encourage all of you to participate and to post your questions, to raise your hand and to make your comments. Remember that we are not monitoring the chat function. We are reading the questions in the question function in Zoom. We would also like to tell you that these two seminars will be posted eventually in the AIIC webpage. And so you will get all the information from there. Right now, I would like to continue with a set of questions. In this case, it is a set of questions that have to do with working conditions. We already know that we have working conditions that apply to face-to-face meetings, and the inception of this new dynamic, let's say with the pandemic, made us reflect on the need of further or enhanced working conditions. Also taking as a base the working conditions that we have for face-to-face meetings. So I would like to ask Claudia to post the first question. And the first question, when I see it on the screen, will be about the working day. You know that a lot has been said about the working day in distance interpreting that implies a higher cognitive load than the cognitive load needed to conduct business or to do interpreting face-to-face. So I would kindly ask Claudia to post the questions so that our participants can answer them. And the first question is, do you think that a distance interpreting working day should be shorter compared to in-presence interpreting? Yes, I do. No, I don't. It's either one or the other. You cannot have both ways. And we are receiving a lot of responses. It is 68% so far. So we will give participants a couple of seconds to cast their vote, and then we will close the vote. When we reach approximately 80%, we will close the vote, or when the number stabilizes. And I think we have reached 76%. And the vote is closed. So these are the results. 93% say that the working day should be shorter compared to in-presence interpreting. Let's go to the second question. No news about that. There is no surprise. Most of us know what it entails to work in remote. That implies higher cognitive load. So let's go to the second question. And we would like to ask the following. After how long should a distance interpreting meeting be interrupted for a break? After 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes. A lot of you have already cast your vote. It is 73% now. And when we reach 80%, we will close the vote. It seems that it stabilizes So we can close the vote. And most of you said that the meeting should be interrupted after 90 minutes working on distance interpreting. It is 52% of the respondents with 94 people. And then at a tie, we have 60 minutes and 120 minutes, each one with 23%. Let's go now to the following question. The following question, when it is on the screen, do you think that the manning strength should be reinforced in distance interpreting? Yes or no? We are reaching 70%, 72%. Please cast your vote. And we will close the vote. 64% of you said, yes, I do. That means manning strength should be reinforced. And no, I don't, 36%. Quite interesting. This will call for a discussion then in the discussion segment. Let's go to the next question now. It says, in your opinion, for how long should a distance interpreting meeting go on, including breaks of a suitable length, before the team needs to be reinforced by adding a third interpreter? After 3 hours, after 4 hours, after 5 hours, after 6 hours. This is roughly speaking, because the breaks may vary in their duration. And we have 60% voted. Wow, you closed already and I didn't see the result. I think there was a repeat of this question.
Yes, my apologies. Sorry.
So we are going to launch this question one more time. Please vote again. In your opinion, how long should a DI meeting go on before the team needs to be reinforced by adding a third interpreter? After 3 hours, after 4 hours, 5 hours, or 6 hours? 63% of the people voted. We had a higher number in the previous vote round for the same question, so we are expecting the same number of people to vote, or at least more. But we can close at 70%. And here we do not have a definite answer. We have most people, 34% believe it is 4 hours. And then 26 and 23% between 5 hours and 3 hours and 5 hours. And only 17% after 6 hours, that is a regular in-presence manning strength. Let's go now to the following question. When we show this question on the screen, it is, do you agree that we should charge extra for live streaming, considering that we are already charging extra for recording? Yes or no? Here we're speaking about the principle of charging, we're not speaking about individual amounts or specific amounts. We reached 76%. And we can close the vote. There seems to be a tie, 52% versus 48%. Most people say, yes, I do, but another large number of people say, no, I don't, preferring not to charge extra for recording, for web streaming. And I think this is the last question in this segment. So with that, I would like to open the floor for discussions, for comments about the set of questions that we have tackled. So I would like to see your hands raised with comments or with questions, and Manuela Ville will co-moderate with myself. So I see the first hand raised by Robert Alec Yellen. You're invited to.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Martin, thank you, Martin. This is excellent, and thanks again to PRIMS. It's very well done. My question is the following. I might have missed it. Maybe you asked this question, whether we should charge more for DI as opposed to, I don't know. What I do is maybe I'm not even allowed to talk about rates, but I charge 25% more for Consec solo. Consec, 2 people, I charge the same thing as Simul, and for DI, I charge 25% more. So that's my question. Should we charge more for DI?
We did not ask that question directly, but since you mention it, it is a very good point to raise. I mean, it is, of course, interesting to know different possibilities. Now, we have another request for the floor by Alessandra Campisi. Remember that you have 2 minutes to make your point or to make your question or comment.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, I believe that we should remember to always keep fees very high, because not only we get paid for actually live streaming or whatever the length of the meeting is, but we have to take also into consideration that many hours are also spent before the meeting for dry runs and, you know, all tests with or without speakers. And also there are great savings on the customer side, because we don't have to travel, no hotel or restaurant expenses, no jour chômé or manque à gagner, nothing of that kind. So I believe that all this should be considered and made clear to the client also just as well. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you mean charging more for the fact that the client is savings or making some savings on travel costs and per diems and some other items, right?
Yes, also we have, because I see that many people tend to decrease their fees because they're afraid, well, understandingly, they're afraid of, you know, losing the job, which is a consideration, in fact. But on the other hand, talking to the client, we have, wouldn't say actually to make it, you know, to present it as a main reason for raising our fees, but also in the end, clients should understand that they don't have to, they don't have these extra costs.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alessandra. Now we give the floor to Cristina Reis. Cristina, can you hear us? And we invite all other participants that want to take the floor to raise their hands. The question, okay, the questions that the hand raising will appears chronologically, so you will not miss, we have a list of speakers here. Cristina, you have the floor.
Thank you. My comment is not so much about the fees, it's more about the questionnaire. And I think that the length of the meeting, the number of breaks, and the manning strength are very much related. And if you combine those 3 questions, you might get very different answers. And I think it would be interesting to know that as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Cristina. Now we have Gisela Basson on the list. Gisèle, you're invited to open your mic.
Oui, bonjour à tous. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? C'est bon?
Yes.
OK. Alors, si vous me permettez, je parlerai en français. Et je voudrais reprendre juste 2 ou 3 points qui ont été évoqués par Raffaella à propos du multilinguisme et dans sa présentation. Je pense qu'un des arguments essentiels pour défendre le multilinguisme auprès de nos clients quand nous parlons d'interprétation à distance, un des arguments, c'est que finalement, en travaillant à distance, les petites langues peuvent être représentées et utilisées bien davantage et bien meilleur marché que lorsqu'on est en présence. Pas de billets d'avion, pas de logement, bref, c'est un argument de vente qui me semble très important pour justement essayer de parler beaucoup plus que simplement le globish quand déjà on est derrière son écran. Et je pense que c'est un argument qu'on devrait vraiment mettre en avant, qui pourrait défendre en plus beaucoup des petites langues. En ce qui concerne la concurrence déloyale des plateformes, je pense que cette concurrence déloyale qui nous rend totalement transparents et inexistants, nous interprètes, c'est un peu la même chose qu'à l'époque des techniciens qui vendaient des cabines garnies avec des interprètes qui étaient vendus comme faisant partie de la cabine, sauf que maintenant, dans ce monde énorme virtuel, en effet, la concurrence est d'autant plus déloyale et c'est notre travail, effectivement, de faire comprendre que nous ne sommes pas des appareils, on ne fait pas partie de l'appareillage, mais nous sommes des personnes. Et donc, entre autres, quand nous travaillons sur des plateformes, il faut qu'on ait, pas comme c'est ici dans notre réunion, notre photographie en dessous de notre nom pour qu'on sache que nous sommes des personnes vivantes et non pas de l'intelligence artificielle. Encore une question de vente et de marketing. Et enfin, la dernière chose, puisque ça a été évoqué juste en 2 mots, le rôle des interprètes conseils est en effet essentiel et comme je suis la coordinatrice du groupe interprète conseil, je ne peux que soutenir le fait que ce rôle est essentiel. Merci.
Thank you very much, Giselle. Of course, we recognize the labor of the consultant interpreters group, and it is a question of joining forces and just defending the same rights and the same principles, of course. I would like to invite all members or all participants that would like to take the floor to raise their hand. We do not see any hand raised. And we now see one hand raised. It is Thomas Bigot that raised his hand, and now yes, Thomas Bigot raised his hand. Thomas, you have the floor.
Bonjour, je vais m'exprimer moi aussi en français si vous le permettez, pour faire un petit équilibre des langues, si c'est possible. Merci d'avoir organisé cette réunion. Je trouve que ce questionnaire est très, très intéressant. Cependant, une fois de plus, je trouve, il pose des questions qui vont dans le sens d'un monde que nous désirons, de conditions de travail que nous désirons. Les résultats sont plutôt encourageants, mais je pense qu'il serait bon également de faire un questionnaire en parallèle qui poserait des questions sur ce que nous avons vécu depuis 1 an, c'est-à-dire les conditions réelles depuis qu'on travaille de temps en temps à distance. Merci.
Thank you, Thomas. Or Thomas. Do we have any other request for the floor? We have Raghu Krishnan. You have the floor, please.
Oh, thanks for giving me the floor, and thanks for holding this meeting. Hello from Toronto. I'm not sure if this is the right place to make this comment or ask this question. It's somewhat in line with what Thomas just said. And that is, what surprised me is that although I've been very impressed by all the technical information that we've received from AIIC and information about different RSI platforms and so forth, very useful. But it just strikes me that no one said much about COVID per se. In the survey that was done just this morning, there was this question about why we haven't been, if we worked at hubs, and if why not, how come? And here in Toronto, for example, I just couldn't get the confidence that the hubs were safe. This is an airborne virus, and precious little attention seems to have been paid to ensuring that interpreters, technicians, meeting organizers are actually safe in our places of work. And if you ask the hub locations, they'll give you the usual spiel about wiping down surfaces and so forth and so on, but very little about, nothing about ventilation and the rest. And so I've been curious to know, what has been the actual experience of interpreters and the people we work with in relation to the virus? And more broadly, what is the responsibility of our profession to ensuring that we are not contributing to the spread of this virus? There's some talk of working with the mice industry. The problem is the mice industry, like the aviation industry and many others, has played on many occasions a very irresponsible role during this pandemic. So anyway, my time's almost up, but yeah. I'm surprised by how little attention has been paid to this question, given that the whole crisis could have been shortened had everyone played a much more responsible role. I had another quick question. I'm not sure if I can ask it.
You can raise your hand after after.
Thank you.
This intervention. In fact, the Technical and Health Committee issued a set of guidelines for interpreting and to take care of the interpreting setting that can be consulted. And we did not include these aspects here in this donut because we are speaking about the private market and the working conditions and this type of issues that, let's say, are affected by COVID, of course, but it is not the center, the kern of our discussion. That's why it is not included fully.
Martin, if I may,
sure.
I thought this was a very interesting intervention because in my opinion, it had always gone without saying that all hygiene rules and regulations are being adhered to when working during the pandemic. So also including when you go to a hub, and it has been my experience, at least here in Germany, that they always have. So there are separate booths, or you have a so-called booth, which is actually a big conference room, which has enough air and also ventilation so that you can have two people working in the same room, and so being in the same booth again, which is much nicer, of course, than being separated by a wall. And so from what I've seen during the pandemic, it has always been safe to go to a hub and to work there. But of course, that can vary from country to country. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it must be safe. Otherwise, it's not an option.
Okay, thank you. And now we have Urosh that requested the floor. Urosh, you have the floor. Your 2 minutes. It's longer 2 minutes if you want.
No. 2 minutes like everyone else. Thank you very much, Martin. I just wanted to echo what Thomas Bigot mentioned. I think it's a really good point that one thing is our wish list, and one thing is the day-to-day reality that we've been living for the past year. And I think the TFDI is almost ready with their own survey, which is much more all-encompassing, and which includes these sorts of issues as well. So that is definitely coming up. We can always argue, it'd be nice to have had it earlier, but how these things are. And I mean, with volunteers doing all the work, sometimes it takes longer than we might want. On the COVID thing. Another thing that we're not saying, but is I think on everyone's mind, is that COVID actually accelerated all of this massively. Had it not been for COVID, we wouldn't be having these sorts of discussions right now. I think we all realize that, and that's one thing to bear in mind as well. It acted as a huge accelerator of the change in our profession. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urosh. And I think Rafaela wanted to make a comment about this issue. Rafaela, you have the floor.
Thank you. I wanted to go back. Maybe I should switch my camera off. I have this priority. I can do it. I want to go back to what the colleague from Toronto just said about COVID. And in my experience, going to our local hub is good. We have a good local hub with all the hygiene and safety measures in place, but sometimes it's too expensive, simply because you have to hire 2 booths instead of 1 for one team of 2 people, maybe for 1 hour. So it all goes back to the economics of that meeting. And very often clients are not ready to pay for the double amount of booths for 1 hour meeting. Very often you are working from home just because it's not possible from an economic point of view, but from a safety point of view, it would be totally acceptable to work from the booth, from the hub. I don't know what your experience has been. It would be nice to hear.
And Rafaela launched the question. So we would like to hear your experiences. If you have some experience to share with us, please raise your hand. I see Wendy Green has the floor. Wendy, you can take the floor, please. We can't hear you. Wendy, are you there? If not, if Wendy is not ready, we can have Youssef Mukhtar, and then we go back to Wendy Green.
Hi, it's Wendy Green. Sorry,
okay,
can you hear
Wendy.
me now? Sorry
yes,
about that.
Now we can hear you.
I'm not using the computer that I use when I'm working, which is much more modern. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little a little view of what our experience is here in Toronto, or what my experience has been. And that is that, yes, we have our own booths. There is hand sanitizer in the booth. There are little wipes in the booth. But what I've seen is that the hubs are the hubs have been made from old equipment storage facilities. And with the staff that has always been working for these equipment companies. So when you walk through the company space to your booth, I have seen people in their little cubicles without masks. Even though when we come in, have to fill out the form, we have to have our temperature taken, and we know that that is really ridiculous because it means nothing. So, but we are told to wear masks, this and that, and we're walking through a big space with cubicles where I have seen people not wearing masks. These are regular staff of the company where the hub is set up. So I have gone out to work at hubs, and I try to keep my mask on at all times. I was even really trying to do it in the booth, but people speak so quickly, you don't have time to get a proper gulp of air. And so in my booth with the door shut, I do now sometimes take off my mask. But whenever I leave the booth, I have a mask on, and preferably I'm double masked. So that's my experience. And I haven't said no yet to a hub, but sometimes I wonder.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Now we give the floor to Youssef. Youssef, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, please. I have I want to take the hub from two angles. First one is the present situation. The other is post-COVID. A solution that is, for example, followed in my region, my countries, they are avoiding the whole issue. So you work from home, online, it's safer, and avoid hubs totally. Now, the experience I know is different in other parts of the world. And something that will change also will be post-COVID, because the hub is initiating, it is a catalyzer of the RSI world that we knew that was coming. We had a lot of discussion about it. It was rejected by majority of colleagues. I remember, for example, in Valencia, when we discussed it, they thought it's science fiction. Now it's coming. So another important issue that PRIMS has to study is the post-COVID hubs. Hub is coming as a business in the way that we will be moving much less. I'm speaking about us, the freelancers that were living all the time, traveling and serving private sector organizations. It's cheaper and it's here to stay. So one thing that we have to prepare ourselves for it is the establishment of hubs as a permanent solution for clients. It's cheaper for them to work not only with through a company or CI, no, yeah, also a hub and solve the solution, and it will open a lot of things that we are not still discussing. So we have to start a discussion about all the legalities, all the aspects, the professional codes of the post-COVID hubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Youssef. And the post-COVID hubs, of course, this will imply working conditions. Let's say specific working conditions, as we have seen from the questions we have asked. So now let's pass on the floor to Beth Gelb. Beth, you have the floor.
Thanks very much. Please do excuse me if I'm mentioning something that's kind of hors sujet right now, but I think it's a very important point for us to talk about from here on into the future. There's been a precedent established now with all of this distance interpreting about booth mates and also people on the same team of interpreters more broadly, not being together and not working together in the traditional sense of the word. And one of the main arguments that I put forward to my clients, why do you need to be two interpreters? Because we do teamwork, because the person who isn't interpreting is also there to help the other colleague, because that person is also there in case there's some other technical problem. And I feel very strongly about this personally. I would hate to see the precedent of working in teams of two in the booth broken because of this distance interpreting. I think that it's a tremendous loss.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Now we have Camille. You have the floor.
Oui, je voulais juste rebondir sur ce que a dit Youssef concernant les hubs maintenant et les hubs post-Covid, parce que je pense que si on était réticent à l'interprétation à distance, on n'a pas eu le choix pendant la pandémie, et cette pandémie dure longtemps, plus longtemps qu'on ne pensait ou qu'on espérait évidemment. Mais ce qui, moi, m'inquiète personnellement, c'est après, comment on va revenir en réunion. Parce que tout le monde parle du fait qu'on veut revenir en réunion en présentiel, mais la réunion en présentiel, je ne suis pas sûre qu'elle nous inclut nous. Je ne suis pas sûre qu'elle inclut les interprètes parce que le présentiel que les clients souhaitent, c'est entre eux. Ce n'est pas forcément avec des interprètes. Et moi, c'est ça qui m'inquiète le plus. Comment on va faire valoir notre présence? Parce qu'en plus, toutes les plateformes qui proposent ces services n'ont de cesse de parler de la réduction de coûts que représente l'interprétation à distance, du fait que c'est plus écologique, même si cet argument, je pense, est à démonter parce que Internet, les connexions et tous les outils qu'on utilise ont une empreinte écologique et qui n'est pas forcément négligeable par rapport à des coûts de transport. Donc moi, ce qui m'inquiète, c'est comment on argumente notre présence post-Covid.
Okay, thank you, Camille. Yes, it is, I mean, something to think about how to defend our presence after COVID. But anyway, we have, Rafaela provided some ideas and some arguments. She said that AIIC is us and we have to defend good working conditions and good parameters to work. And well, it is on us. On us as an institution, as an association, and on us individually to defend what we think is correct for us. And with that, Manuela, yes?
Yes.
Please.
I talked to a technician recently about this because there was one client of mine who wanted to go back to face-to-face meetings for a time. It looked good here in Germany. They were hopeful, but now of course everything has been cancelled again. But still, they thought that maybe they would still have the interpreters off-site somewhere in a hub. And so, but then the technician said, well, it's not going to be any cheaper because we would still need a camera and video and sound transmission to the hub or to wherever the interpreters are and then back to the conference room, and it would actually be more expensive than having us on site. And I thought that was very reassuring.
That's why you need good technicians, and technicians are our friends. So we have on the list Thomas Bigot again. You have the floor.
Merci à nouveau. Je souhaiterais réagir à deux idées. Effectivement, celle très importante mentionnée par Beth il y a quelques instants, à savoir que le plus important, je crois, est d'avoir des équipes de 2 ou 3 interprètes pour pouvoir s'aider, pour pouvoir mieux travailler et faire un travail de qualité. Et je pense que si j'avais un rêve de retour en salle avec des clients, je rêverais que les clients qui ont des messages à délivrer soient en salle avec les interprètes, quitte à ce que les participants, eux, soient plus loin, puisque si on parle de coût, dans ce cas-là, ce serait beaucoup moins cher pour les clients d'avoir 100 participants éloignés et les interprètes sur place. Donc, même si ce n'est pas idéal, c'est pour ça que je préfère quand même le système des hubs, parce qu'il y a toujours la question du coronavirus. Mais cependant, nous sommes même dans des cabines séparées, mais nous sommes au même endroit. Et deuxième point, c'est la question du coût. Quand on parle du coût de 2 cabines, là, je m'inscris complètement en faux. Quand on fait des devis pour des clients sur le marché privé, on voit qu'ils nous posent des questions. Là, j'en ai fait récemment pour 2 jours. Le premier jour, 2 heures, 2 interprètes. Le deuxième jour, 4 heures. Je n'ai pu faire que 2 interprètes. Ils m'ont demandé de baisser les prix pour le premier jour. J'ai dit non. Ils ne m'ont pas posé une seule question pour les cabines. Or, les cabines sont dans un hub. Le hub facture le montage et démontage des cabines. Or, les cabines ne sont jamais montées et démontées. Elles sont là depuis 1 an. Elles ne bougent pas du tout. Et les clients ne posent pas une seule question. Donc, le coût, c'est vraiment très surprenant de voir que c'est le coût de la machine qui peut crever le ciel, comme on dit en mauvais français, alors que le coût des interprètes, là, on peut le presser comme si on était un produit dans une boîte ou une canette de je ne sais pas quoi. Merci. Et merci pour le point sur l'écologie, Camille.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. Now, El Hadji, I have just massacred your name. Sorry about that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you have the floor. El Hadji, you have the floor. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, great. I just wanted to share my experience with the hub in Dakar. We have a hub set up, and what we do, some companies, they agree to hire the hub and pay everything with the breaks and everything. And but if, for example, the company does not hire the hub, because what they after is the interpreter supposed to take care of internet charges and everything. So I myself, I do hire one cabin, individual booth at the hub, and do my meeting. And during that meeting, they normally have how to call it, food sanitizer. They have masks at the hub. They have hand sanitizer.
I think we lost you.
We seem to be having problems with the connection. The connection seems to be unstable.
Also room for break, and I can say they have everything. But I think to reflect on the hoops. Hello. Hello.
You're breaking up.
Hello.
I think your connection is
Hello.
not
Are you
stable.
listening?
Yes, but you come up patchy. Thank you, El Hadji, for your comments. And now we are going to give the floor to Haris Ginos. Haris, you have the floor.
Okay, radio check. I hope you can hear me. So we are here to strategize, and strategize means making decisions for the long term. So in making decisions for the long term, or the mid and the long term, it is important that we make decisions without fear. And it was unavoidable that many views these days have been expressed under fear, and it's natural because we are all afraid that we are losing work. So no fear, this is my first message. And then with regard to the home alone model, the non-collocated, I would like to say that we have to be truthful to our clients, give them what we have always given them, the top quality of AIIC interpreters, and realize that the home alone model is a new business model in which all categories of interpreting are treated in exactly the same way. So the distinction between conference interpreting and all the rest is lost. The access to clients is lost. The dividing line, as I said, is lost between conference interpreting and the rest. We open ourselves to competition from online agencies, including platforms. In symbolical terms, we are on the losing end. Lowering expectations means that fees will go down. The lack of formality destroys the image of an interpreter working well dressed in a booth in a real conference, and we are at the same time killing softly the cascade model that is ranging from the on-site to the hub and the home alone at the end of the day. So we have to convince our clients, but in order to convince our clients, we first have to convince ourselves first, conference interpreters.
Thank you very much, Harris. I don't know, Manuela, if you have any comment or any other request to take the floor. Yes, we have Manuela, any comment?
We have Sylvie. Okay. We have Sylvie, who asked for the floor.
Hi, yeah, I'd just like to come back to say that the future is not to be something that is going to be a block. It's going to be very hybrid and very personal and individual. I am all in favor of hubs. I think hubs, if anything, are going to be the best solution in a hybrid world, because lots of clients want to meet together again and say, oh, yes, yes, we will get together. But when I say to them, but will that include the interpreters, there comes a little silence. They want to meet again as delegates, but I think they'll be quite happy to keep us at a distance. They will be used to it. Lots of people have invested in it. They're excellent hubs. I mean, I've seen some in Germany, which I would be perfectly happy to work in. And I think Harris's hub seems very attractive as well. And there are advantages and disadvantages to hubs. And I'm not going to enter into this, but then there is also the individual interpreter. And as an individual interpreter, we are going to take our individual decisions. And if you want to give quality to the client, you can also say, like I do, look, I am this highly qualified interpreter who can do superb consecutive. If anything else breaks, I can go on my phone and the meeting can continue. Okay, I work mainly bi-directional, English, French, French, English now. But the meeting can go on, the show can stay on the road. Now, that is why it is so important. I have also been a long-term teacher of interpreting in Britain, where there is only one course left, of course. It is so important still to insist on good training for interpreters and include consecutive. But I will leave it at that. It is a unique selling point for us interpreters if we compare ourselves to all the rest that's out there. Who can do a proper consecutive still? We can if we want to. Thank you. End of rant.
Okay, thank you, Sylvie. Thank you very much. One comment about the cascade model that Harris commented that perhaps is worth mentioning. The cascade model means that the preference is in person, let's say co-located with your boothmate and with the audience and with the participants. If that is not possible, then a hub. And then if that is not possible because of health-related constraints or because of pandemic or because of whatever, then the home alone not collocated mode is the option. is the option, or sometimes it is a necessity, like in the cases where there is a lockdown in place. Now we have Youssef that requested for the floor, and then Urosh. Youssef, you have the floor.
Thank you. The point raised by Harris will take me to a discussion of a very important point for us, the freelancers, if you want to say, outside of the main headquarters. A lot of our work is based on, if you want to call the satellite meetings, and normally we complement the teams that exist at the headquarters. That was our main market for years. Now it disappeared totally with the COVID, and I'm wondering how it will be in the future, because you are speaking about hubs. Hubs are located in cities, located in cities. So what about the colleagues that are not from the city or the country? How they will be served? I know a similar problem was raised in the EU lately, you know, about the small languages and how they were neglected, and the problem that happens with the European Parliament and the main languages and the set aside of the other languages. For long, it was a big issue. Now I'm speaking about events. For example, I was a person that traveled to Geneva and other places. Now you will not travel with hubs. So this is a point that we have to raise within PRIMS and discuss it. What is the future for for us, the travelers, the wanderers, who are working to complement the other teams, and now with hubs and with no conferences of, I don't know how we will be working in this environment. The only solution for us at present is the online, because we complement the others. Now, if we are set aside and just follow the model launched by Harris and others, just the hub, no, it has to be the cascade, it has to be, and we have to defend this as a group, as interpreters. And I see that this part of the discussion is neglected. So I hope it will be raised in the future.
Thank you very much, Youssef. Now Urosh has the floor.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for indulging me once again. I just want to come in on what Harris mentioned. Harris and I are good friends and colleagues. We sit on EXCO together, and we have many philosophical discussions, and we often disagree politely, but disagree. And this is also one of the occasions why, because I think you know, saying home alone is killing the profession, is not conference interpreting, is, yeah, okay, it's a position, but can we really say that for the past year, what people have had to resort to is something that's not worthy of the profession? It's a way of maintaining multilingualism. It's a way of putting bread on the table. It's a way of continuing to remain in the profession. And I think we have to discern between two things. One thing is the in extremis scenario, when it is really the last resort solution to be working from home alone via a platform, and a non-pandemic scenario, and what happens to working from home via a computer alone or not in that case. I think this is what the discussion will certainly need to be about, because RSI platforms are not going away. Far from it. RSI platforms are becoming a major player and a major employer, like it or not. It's the way it is. So we have two options: adapt or die. It's easy to say, well, we have to counter that trend, but how do you counter that trend, right? We now have an opportunity to do something about it. I'm not saying hop on the train, whatever happens, hop on the train under our conditions and make sure that things are done properly. And the cascade principle, I'm very glad you mentioned that, Martin. It's something we managed to put into the AIIC agreement, which clearly states presential meetings are preferential, and then you go step by step, and the home alone is truly an in extremis last resort solution right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urosh. I think I have a request for the floor by I lost him. There was a person, Robert Alec Yellen, that raised his hand, lowered his hand, raised his hand, lowered his hand. That's why you were never on the list. I never included you because I thought that you were making a mistake by raising and lowering your hand repeatedly.
I'm
so
sorry,
if you want to,
Martin, I'm sorry.
If you want to take the floor, you can. You're
can
free
you
to take the floor, please.
Can you hear me? Can you?
Yeah.
Can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Martin. I'm hopeless with this Zoom raise your hand stuff. But anyway, a lot of things I want to say, but I'm only limited to 2 minutes. But je parle français maintenant, Camille Mercier. Quand tu parles d'arguments post-Covid, je trouve que c'est excellent. I go back to English when I think, I forget the colleague from Toronto, I think, or Canada, who really raised this issue about COVID. Maybe there's something to be done here. And Uras was speaking about this also very well, and congratulations as our great president. Maybe we can develop some kind of standard wording, an AIIC selling argument to reassure the client when we put in quotes some kind of little nota bene or something that says what we do vis-a-vis COVID, you know, that we respect all the principles. Julia was saying she brings her own wipes, so maybe we bring hand sanitizers. If we work two in the booth, I guess there's an issue there. Do we have to wear masks? How can you interpret through a mask, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is to develop some kind of standard short, brief text that reassures the client as an AIIC COVID selling argument. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Now we have Giselle and Haris, and I think we have to move to the next set of questions after them. So Giselle, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup. Je ne serai pas longue, mais je pense qu'il est vraiment important de bien comprendre autour de cette question des hubs ou du travail à domicile. Le hub est évidemment une solution préférable, mais elle ne concerne que les grandes capitales de l'interprétation où il y a suffisamment d'interprètes et suffisamment de hubs disponibles. Sur les petits marchés, sur les, encore une fois, petites langues, le hub n'est pas toujours accessible, n'est pas toujours possible. Et donc, il faut essayer de trouver justement l'équilibre entre les diverses méthodes de travail. Je pense que les plateformes, non, elles ne doivent pas être nos employeurs. Nous devons reprendre en main nos destinées, à savoir trouver les plateformes avec lesquelles nous pouvons le mieux travailler depuis des hubs ou depuis nos domiciles dans les conditions qui nous conviennent. Mais à nouveau, il nous faut nous réapproprier notre outil de travail comme nous l'avons fait avec les cabines à l'époque. C'est toujours la même chose. Ce n'est pas la cabine qui interprète, ce sont les interprètes qui utilisent le matériel. Et c'est la même chose pour les plateformes. Et je pense que nos arguments de vente, si nous parlons maintenant de marché privé, eh bien, c'est exactement de cela qu'il s'agit. Il ne faut pas, encore une fois, comme nous n'avons pas accepté d'être vendus dans des cabines garnies, nous ne devons pas accepter d'être vendus par des plateformes, mais nous réapproprier l'outil technique pour réussir à servir nos clients le mieux possible. Il faut absolument se réapproprier cela. Voilà, merci.
Thank you very much, Giselle. I have Haris Ginos, and unfortunately, I need to close the speakers list. Haris, you have the floor. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Martin. As Uros said, we sometimes disagree, but the only way to learn is to disagree. You never learn from agreeing. So I think we have underestimated the importance, the size, the financial clout of the platforms or the large LSPs. My point again is that if you don't like being hired by a platform, and I agree with Giselle on that, you can't like Home Alone. It's totally, this is a contradiction in terms. The sheer size of the large LSPs, not just platforms, is in numbers that we cannot even imagine. The investment, the monies, the marketing power, the visibility they get, the presence on the web. If we are game to this business model, which is based precisely on the Home Alone, it's not that we will lose our clients. We will never even see the clients in the first place because of the way interpreters will be hired. So the question is, yes to in extremis, and I never blamed anyone for working from home, especially in these times. But the question is, what is the rule? What is the message we are sending to clients, to colleagues and clients? What is conference interpreting per se? What is the very substance? What is the value added that we have been selling our valued clients all these years? This is where we should start a discussion, but taking into account that this is a huge business and marketing problem.
Okay, thank you, Haris. And we have we can give the floor 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes to Raghu again. Raghu, you have the floor, and then we pass on to the next set of questions.
Okay, thanks. I'll be quick. Right. You know, with all due respect to Uros, what he said, and I certainly don't envy the AIIC executive or the people who've been looking after the profession, but at the beginning of the pandemic, Uros said that it was wrong to speak of conference interpretation pre-COVID and conference interpretation post-COVID, that things would return to normal. 1 year later, we see that this is not the case, and he's saying adapt or die, like it or not. I made this point earlier in the chat, and I wonder, and I said, is it not that, has the time not come to start talking about regulating the profession, to lobby, to advocate for the profession with government authorities, with EU authorities, here in Canada with the relevant authorities, to regulate the profession? Frankly, I'm just worried that this pandemic will be used. It's a crisis that employers and other business players will use to just foster a race to the bottom. It'll only be a handful of us that benefit from this new arrangement. It'll be some of the RSI platforms that make a lot of money. I don't see myself as a swashbuckling business person that wants to go out there doing battle with all the private players that Haris correctly mentioned. So, I mean, I just think that there has to be, this is a very political point to be made as well, I suppose. But during the crisis, which is ongoing, there is also the question of government support. So now other professions have been able to mobilize and demand greater government support to let us tide over the period of the pandemic. I know in France, when I was there, that was done up to a certain point, but I'm not sure if we've made a concerted enough effort to help us get through the crisis just financially. And just as a lesson for the future, because first of all, we're not sure when this pandemic will end, and we know what we don't know what future crises might come, whether they're health related or environment related. So I don't know, I think there's a kind of a bigger discussion. A lot of people agree that all these things have to, I think, be on the table in the post-pandemic or, you know, in this coming period. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Raghu. It has been very enlightening. There were a lot of comments, a lot of opinions. Of course, we can agree to disagree. We may have different point of view, but what we want is to have some common ground and to make something that works for us and for the profession, and to defend our work and our working conditions the way we are used to, so that we can give the client the services they are accustomed to receiving from us. With that, I would like to pass on the floor to Sergio, that will tackle the next set of questions. Sergio, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Martin. Donc, nous avons déjà parlé du passé, du présent, et on aimerait que le groupe suivant des questions soit plutôt tourné vers l'avenir. Donc, je vais déjà lancer la question, comme ça vous pouvez déjà la voir à l'écran en même temps que je vous parle. On va parler maintenant de l'interprétation à distance et de son rôle dans la composition de celui qui sera notre travail dans l'avenir. Est-ce que vous pensez que l'interprétation à distance restera, bien entendu, après la pandémie? Donc, normalement, vous devez voir, si tout va bien, donc l'enquête qui est en cours. D'accord, super. Je vais encore la laisser un tout petit peu plus longtemps. Bien entendu, on n'a pas vraiment une boule de cristal, mais j'ai l'intuition qu'on est tous d'accord pour dire que ça restera. Bon, je vais déjà interrompre le vote. Je vous montre le résultat. Donc, l'immense majorité, 98%. Ce matin, c'était 99%. je pense qu'on est tous assez d'accord pour dire que on a passé un tournant et que ça va rester. La question suivante également sur l'avenir. Attendez, juste, je ne vais pas me tromper. C'est plutôt... excusez-moi, j'ai relancé la même. Bon, je vais la finir et je vais passer à la suivante. Désolé, c'est bizarre. On l'avait 2 fois celle-là?
C'est bon ce que tu as à l'écran.
Ah, c'est bon?
Oui,
C'est
oui,
bon?
oui.
C'est bon?
C'est
Ouais,
bon,
je
c'est bon.
la relance. Je la relance. D'accord. Et c'est plutôt par rapport à votre souhait. Excusez-moi, j'avais pas pris le temps de lire. Est-ce que vous aimeriez que ça reste? Voilà, c'est plutôt par rapport à votre ressenti. C'est pas tant par rapport à votre croyance, mais par rapport à votre ressenti. Est-ce que vous aimeriez que cette forme d'interprétation reste? On va laisser un peu plus longtemps. Là, on est à 68%, 69%. On voit que ça va assez vite. Bon, je vous épargne la lecture des réponses. Je pense que chacun peut les lire. On est déjà à 75%. Bon, ça se stabilise. Je vais arrêter. Allez, je laisse encore 2 secondes. Et j'arrête et je vous montre les résultats. Donc, on voit que l'immense majorité, enfin, le 2 tiers, on va dire, aimerait bien que ça reste, mais en complément, bien entendu, du présentiel, en complément de ce qu'on fait comme mode d'interprétation traditionnel, donc en présentiel. Il y a quand même un quart de personnes qui ont répondu, un quart des enquêtés, qui n'aimeraient pas du tout que ça reste. Donc, je pense que c'est aussi assez significatif pour en parler. La question suivante est spécifique au mode d'interprétation à la maison. Donc là, on parle d'interprétation à distance à domicile. Et donc, on sait que ça a été, dans les circonstances qu'on connaît tous de pandémie, autorisé exceptionnellement, in extremis, par le comité exécutif de l'AIIC. Et maintenant, ça a plutôt trait à la reconnaissance de ces modes d'interprétation. Est-ce que vous pensez que l'AIIC devrait donner ou reconnaître l'interprétation à distance de la maison comme une nouvelle modalité de travail? Je vais vous laisser le temps, bien entendu, de lire les réponses et les nuances. Donc, dans l'affirmative, l'interprétation à distance à domicile viendrait s'ajouter au mode d'interprétation qu'on pratique d'ores et déjà traditionnellement. Nous sommes déjà à 75%. Je laisse encore peut-être 2 secondes. C'est des questions lourdes de sens. On est à 77%. Bon, je vais interrompre la votation. Je pense qu'on est... Allez, on va arriver à 80%. Voilà, j'arrête là et je partage avec vous les résultats. Donc, on a une large majorité de collègues qui souhaiteraient que l'AIIC donne une reconnaissance à ce mode d'interprétation. Donc, on peut passer à la question suivante, qui est très en rapport avec, attendez juste une seconde, avec la précédente. Et là, on va parler des conditions de travail ou d'orientation autour des conditions de travail pour l'interprétation à distance. Cette question n'est pas spécifique de l'interprétation à domicile in extremis. C'est de façon plus générale, est-ce que l'AIIC devrait développer des conditions de travail ou des orientations sur ces conditions de travail pour l'interprétation à distance de façon générale? Je pense que c'est une question oui-non, donc ça va assez vite. Je peux peut-être interrompre très rapidement. Je vais vous laisser encore 2 secondes. Bon, je pense que la tendance est assez claire. Je partage les résultats. Donc, vous voyez que également l'immense majorité, 96%, c'est presque l'unanimité, considère que l'AIIC devrait développer donc des conditions de travail spécifiques à l'interprétation à distance. Nous avons encore deux questions également sur l'avenir. Hein. Attendez. Je passe à la question 21. J'ouvre le vote. Est-ce que vous pensez que l'AIIC devrait faire pression sur les plateformes existantes pour rendre plus visibles les interprètes? La situation actuelle, c'est que sur la plupart des plateformes, en fait, les interprètes ne sont pas très visibles. Sur la plupart des plateformes, on ne peut même pas montrer les noms des interprètes, on ne peut pas les voir à l'écran, on n'a pas des photos, on n'a pas bien entendu d'images vidéo, et du coup, ça devient, ça nous déshumanise, ça nous écarte encore plus du client, de l'usager de l'interprétation, et donc ce n'est pas forcément positif pour nous, pour les interprètes. À condition, bien entendu, que les développeurs de plateformes nous écoutent, ce qui est encore une autre question. J'arrête le vote, je vous montre les résultats. Oh, il y a trois quarts des collègues qui pensent que l'AIIC devrait faire pression sur les plateformes pour nous rendre plus visibles. OK, la dernière question, et on ne vous embêtera plus avec des questions. C'est par rapport au développement éventuel par l'AIIC d'une solution propre, d'une solution d'interprétation à distance, d'une plateforme sous la marque AIIC. Est-ce que vous pensez que l'AIIC devrait entreprendre cet effort qui, on le sait, serait considérable compte tenu du développement informatique qui serait nécessaire, mais bon, est-ce que les membres du secteur pensent que ce serait néanmoins intéressant? Je vais laisser quelques secondes de plus avant d'interrompre le vote. Là, on est quasiment à 80%. Allez, 2 secondes. Et je vous montre les résultats. J'espère que les résultats se voient. Donc, on a une petite majorité pour. Ce matin, la majorité pour était un tout petit peu inférieure. On était en dessous de 50%. Là, on est à 55%. Un quart à peu près qui ne sait pas et un quart qui n'est pas pour, qui est plutôt contre. OK, ça donne déjà, ce n'est pas radicalement différent de ce qu'on avait ce matin. Bon, mais je pense qu'avec ça, on est arrivé à la fin des questions. Je peux demander à Rafa peut-être de se joindre à moi et on peut ouvrir le dernier débat d'aujourd'hui. Qui veut briser la glace, comme on dit?
Can I?
Yeah, of course, please.
Thank you. Just wanted to make a general comment. We have been hearing a lot of worries being raised, rightly so. You know, we have been talking about our problems and our difficulties. However, if we look at the numbers, and if we go back to some of the previous questions we asked, I noted down a few figures that are quite stunning, I think. 50% of us said that we would have worked more in distance interpreting, but our fees were too high and we basically lost contracts. 50% of us said we would work more. 43% said that our business model has become more flexible during the pandemic. That's something we should think about and discuss. We also, and you know, a vast majority of us said that we wish for a mix of distance interpreting and in-presence interpreting for the future. That's what we wish for, not what we think will happen. This is what we wish for. I mean, that's, I don't know how, of course, the 43% was referring to those people whose business has picked up during the pandemic, you know, to set it right. So I don't know how these two things square. On the one hand, the worries that we've raised, on the other hand, these type of answers. So maybe we can discuss this during this section. I see one of our interpreters on the screen. Okay.
Ah, on a quelqu'un qui était parti, mais non, on est tous là. Et Ouroche a demandé la parole. On peut peut-être donner la parole à Ouroche.
Ah, déjà. OK. Merci. I just wanted to say one thing. I think this is super interesting, the results of the survey. Actually, not surprising, I have to be very honest, which is a good thing. And it was very similar in the morning as well, during the morning session. So it confirms that what I personally and what we in EXCO feel is sort of the direction that the association wants to go is correct. One thing that does, I'll be very, very honest, and I'm speaking very much on a personal level here, but I think also on an EXCO level, that does bother me to some extent, is the notion of AIIC's proprietary RSI platform. I mean, if proprietary means developing our own, please no, God no. You all know we have difficulty coming up with a decent website and CRM system, and we don't have the millions necessary for a serious RSI platform that can handle big volumes. That's one thing. Now, if we're talking about an alliance, partnering, endorsing an existing platform, that's a different story, or a white label solution, or something like that. That's something definitely worth considering, and something that both Rafaela and I mentioned in the morning as well, is a model where, you know, AIIC would be some sort of premium tool for such a select RSI platform or platforms. This, I think, is one of the ways to go, and it's also a way of maintaining our primacy. This is, I think, super important for all of us, because we all know there is total competition out there in the world of interpreting today, and we need to discern ourselves from the masses out there. We are top-tier interpreters. We cost more for a reason, and we need to be able to, what's the English word, valoriser that added value of ours. Thank you.
Merci Ouroche. Proprietary, c'est pas forcément développer nous-mêmes. D'ailleurs, je pense que la plupart des plateformes, on ne les développe pas eux-mêmes. Et ça, les plateformes d'interprétation à distance sortent comme des champignons. Et je pense que rien ne nous empêcherait, si c'était le souhait de l'association, je ne dis pas que ce soit le cas, d'acheter une solution et de la relabelliser AIIC. Enfin, c'est voilà, matière de réflexion. Je pense que nous avons une demande de parole de Camille, s'il vous plaît. Camille, ma présidente de région. Camille Mercier. Son micro.
Voilà, c'est bon.
Ah oui.
La fonction n'était pas affichée. Je voulais juste rebondir sur deux points, notamment ce qu'a soulevé Rafaela, en indiquant qu'on est 67%, je crois, à avoir dit qu'on serait en faveur du maintien en partie d'interprétation à distance en parallèle d'interprétation en présentiel. Et je pense que ça montre en effet que dans ce débat, il faut être honnête aussi sur le fait qu'il y a des avantages, que des réunions plus courtes, moins de temps de trajet, ce genre de choses est parfois agréable, est aussi appréciable, et que peut-être en effet qu'on peut imaginer que c'est une forme d'interprétation qui ne va peut-être pas convenir à tout le monde, tout comme faire de l'interprétation à la télévision, par exemple, n'est pas le type d'interprétation que tout le monde apprécie, et qu'il y a des gens qui vont faire ça parce que c'est un mode qui leur correspond plus que d'autres. Donc peut-être voilà, je pense je trouve que c'est en effet une question très intéressante qui montre que dans ce débat, les choses sont plus nuancées aussi de notre côté en tant qu'interprète. Et comme le disait une collègue qui travaille depuis très longtemps et pour qui la mobilité est plus un problème, eh bien, ou est devenue un problème, eh bien, ça lui permet de continuer à travailler. Et je pense qu'il faut garder tout ça à l'esprit. Et j'avais un deuxième commentaire concernant la question concernant le fait que l'AIIC reconnaisse l'interprétation à distance depuis la maison. Et je dois avouer que je n'ai pas pu répondre à cette question parce que pour moi, le problème, c'est que c'est une réalité et que l'AIIC la reconnaisse ou pas, ça existe. C'est une autre chose que de l'encourager, que de la conseiller comme mode d'interprétation. Par contre, sur le fait de reconnaître quelque chose qui existe et malheureusement sur quoi on n'a pas prise, je pense que ça, l'association ne peut rien faire. Voilà, c'était juste mon commentaire pour cette question.
Merci beaucoup, Camille. Nous avons Youssef.
Yes, I want to complement what just Urus said. For some people who know me, I have a telecom background also. I'm an engineer. So I speak about business models that we developed on telecom projects. To believe that we are going to have a solution to develop as ourselves, it has two main problems. As Urus mentioned, the part of financement and the ownership. And also, it's a very awkward position for us as AIIC. We, for example, in the you know our position for equipment. We recommend, we standardize, we give some. If you want to call, we can have a sub-testing or our standards, our things, but we cannot take a position against, for example, the equipment providers like Bosch and others. I don't know why we take it lightly, and we believe we can do the same with software. It's what we should work on. I believe in my position, we have to standardize or to give our logo of recommendation to certain platforms if they follow our standards and our professional codes and things like this. That's why it requires from us, as we discussed this, it has been discussed in the EXCO and other things, how we should develop our standardizing, if you call, practice. And this in itself will cost us a lot, and we are not technically prepared for it, but we have to think it. I'm speaking about the post-COVID. So it is a very important point and aspect of post-COVID. Now, to take AIIC as an interpreters association to become a competitor of platforms, I think that we are taking a step that will fire back, and we shouldn't take the position. I personally, if I'm voting, I will vote against it. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Youssef. Juste pour être un peu dans la provoque, les plateformes ne se sont pas gênées pour devenir notre concurrence, pour commencer à commercialiser des interprètes à la minute et à la seconde. Juste pour être à la provoque, mais je pense qu'on a un vrai problème là-dessus. J'ai Thomas par la suite.
Merci. Alors, en mauvais français, je dirais « You make my day », AIIC, hein, vraiment, parce que je suis content de voir la réponse à quelques questions, à savoir qu'une très grande majorité des interprètes souhaitent que leur nom apparaisse lorsqu'il y a interprétation en direct, et que deuxièmement, beaucoup de membres souhaitent aussi que le distance interpreting soit développé par l'AIIC, soit au moins soutenu par l'AIIC. Là, je ne sais pas trop quelle solution je préfère, mais c'est très très bon parce que c'est un signe que l'AIIC a cette image que je craignais que nous ayons perdue, cette image de qualité. Nous l'avons vraiment. Si la grande majorité des membres pensent ça, c'est que nous avons, en tout cas au moins entre nous, cette idée de la qualité, de la confiance dans l'association. Et justement, fort de cette confiance, je crois que l'AIIC, au plus haut niveau, peut une fois de plus faire des avancées franches, comme elle l'a fait par le passé, en ouvrant des chemins, soit justement dans le sens de développer une plateforme ou de la soutenir ou de l'acheter déjà, pour justement communiquer. Ce serait excellent pour tout ce qui est public relations de l'AIC et pour attirer de nouveaux membres. Je crois que dans certaines régions, nous avons du mal à attirer de nouveaux adhérents AIC. Ça pourrait être une très, très bonne solution. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Thomas. Je pense que Rafa voulait compléter quelque chose.
Yes, thank you. There's one topic we didn't cover this afternoon, we did this morning, and I think Uros was referring to it. He mentioned the idea of a premium, AIC as a premium supplier. The idea we very briefly discussed this morning is the following. We could start discussions with some of the platforms and see whether there is enough interest in developing a special section of their marketplace and branded as AIC Premium, meaning, okay, you have so many thousands interpreters, but then you also have a premium part of this marketplace, which is AIC Premium. They have slightly different working conditions, they have slightly different rules, but they also are members, but they are members of AIC, which means this and that. And clients will be able to choose between the thousands of interpreters who are not AIC and a special premium, you know, the Amazon Prime of the interpretation. That was the idea. We really briefly discussed this morning, and there was some interest during the previous session, but I think this would deserve another entire session with all of us. But I just wanted to briefly mention.
Raphaël,
Yes.
quelqu'un demande sur donc la fonction Q&A, qu'est-ce que c'est AIC Voices? Peut-être tu peux l'expliquer.
Okay, AIC Voices.
Puisque c'est une initiative qui va dans ce sens-là.
Yes, AIC Voices is a pilot project that we are running in Italy. It's not an RSI platform, it's a bring your own device solution. It's an app that we developed together with a local provider. So that enables participants to a meeting to listen to the interpretation directly on their mobile phones. The participants download the app, they enter the token that is specifically created for that specific meeting, and they can select the language and they can listen to the interpretation. Now, of course, we're talking about in-presence interpretation. This project started well before COVID. Then COVID arrived. It can be used also from hubs. And it's a pilot project. It's early stage. We don't have enough data to provide you with, but our interpreters in Italy are starting selling it. And the positive thing, it's AIC labeled. You see the names of the interpreters. So it's a fantastic marketing tool that we haven't fully exploited so far. But we see a lot of interest from clients, particularly when it is used for hybrid events, because of course we will not go back to meetings, in one shot, open the gates, and we will get back to meetings as they were before. There will be situations where you have some participants on site and many hundreds from home. I mean, participants, not interpreters. And of course, this type of solution can enable participants to follow the translation, both from the location of the conference and from wherever they are. So that's why it is, customers seems to be interested in this type of solution. But it's a pilot project.
Merci, Rafaela. Nous avons Corinne.
Oui, alors bonsoir. Je voulais prendre la parole d'abord pour seconder ce qu'avait dit Thomas. Je pense effectivement que là, l'AIC a un rôle important à jouer parce que, comme le disait aussi Rafaela, l'interprétation à distance et l'interprétation même de son bureau chez soi ou d'un hub ne va pas disparaître. Par contre, si l'AIIC ne ferme pas les yeux et dit bon, d'accord, ça existe, mais il faut tout de même toujours au moins 2 interprètes ou plutôt 3 interprètes parce que c'est plus pénible, parce qu'il y a toute une série de conditions à remplir, de façon à ce que le client sache, je recrute des interprètes AIIC qui seront à distance, mais la qualité sera garantie parce qu'ils seront à 2 ou à 3, parce que si c'est dans un hub, il y a un technicien, enfin que l'on mette un certain nombre de critères en place qui, d'une part, aide les collègues qui ne peuvent pas travailler autrement que de chez eux. Comme l'ont dit certains collègues, il n'y a pas de hub à proximité. S'il faut qu'ils fassent 600 km pour être dans un hub, ce n'est pas non plus la solution. Je pense que si l'AIIC arrive à mettre des choses comme ça en place, ça va aider les interprètes certainement, mais également les clients. Et ce que disait aussi Raffaella avec ce système de premium, interprète premium, je trouve que c'est aussi pas une mauvaise idée marketing, puisque tout le monde, que ce soit les constructeurs automobiles jusqu'à Amazon, ça fait du prime, du premium, etc. Pourquoi est-ce que nous, on n'aurait pas cette approche aussi? Je pense que ce serait peut-être pas une mauvaise idée.
Merci Corinne. Et Grazia, tu voulais réagir à quelque chose qui a été dit?
Oui, si je peux, je ne veux pas enlever le temps de parole aux
Vas-y,
autres.
on a le temps. Vas-y, vas-y.
Ok. Juste pour réagir à ce que Raphaël a proposé, sorry, I go back to English, just to react to the premium idea. The first time I heard this word, I have to confess that I found it shocking. It reminded me of Amazon, Prime Amazon, and I thought, I don't like the idea at all. I also don't like the platforms marketplace. I always thought that we are a profession, and I would like to keep thinking that we are a profession more than a service. But the platforms invested so much money that they will not give up. And we have to find a way to live with them and to avoid that they completely take over and we will be just, a very, very, very small share of a huge market with huge players. How to do it? Uro said, well, we should board the train at our own conditions. Maybe we should find a partnership or an alliance with one or more platforms. That would be my preference. I don't think that a premium category might be an advantage for platforms, or it might be in the beginning, but then we will be swallowed by the big majority of interpreters, because someone then should explain to clients why, they just enter a website and they can choose, they click. Do they all want to go for the most expensive solution? We are becoming objects, we would just be goods. I have to swallow the idea. It's not my first choice. But it's wonderful that we have this opportunity today to talk and discuss and be so honest and open, and to accept that things have changed and they will keep changing. Maybe we are facing a new revolution when we went from consecutive to simultaneous, and now maybe we are facing a new phase. Something new is starting, and I hope that one day they will find the solution for the quality of the sound. Thank you.
Merci, Grazia. Et je pense, pour me faire écho de quelque chose, je pense que c'est Harry ce qu'il a dit. J'ai l'impression que beaucoup des décisions qu'on est en train de prendre sont guidées par la peur, plus que... Mais bon, je laisse ça comme ça. Nina, ma chère amie.
Hello, thank you. Just to say on behalf of CACL that as part of our own reactions to this COVID reality and looking forward, as has been mentioned by several others, to our post-COVID world. We have already informed potential interpreters, candidates, the youth who are interested in the profession. We have told them that we do accept RSI as evidence of working days, provided, of course, that they indicate this specifically in their meeting lists. So I just wanted to put that out there, as we have been talking about how AIIC will have to have regulations about all this. We totally agree, but we are looking forward as well. Thank you.
Merci, Nina. Beth, amiga Beth, ¿estás ahí?
Sí, estoy, Sergio. Thank you. Well, this is all very interesting. I think it's excellent that we're debating and that we're going to continue to debate, because a lot of this stepping into these new things it's a bit of a minefield, I think. One of the things that occurs to me about this AIIC premium service is what happens if not everybody on the team is necessarily AIIC? Because even though we first and foremost talk to other AIIC interpreters and hire other AIIC interpreters, sometimes it's actually just impossible. You need somebody on the team who's not in AIIC because of a language combination, because the person who is AIIC isn't free. So then what happens then? It's sort of like 98% AIIC. So is that like a different brand? I don't know. It seems like there are complicated things. And just a general feeling that I have is that generally speaking, the sound technician people have common interests with us, and the platform people not necessarily. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't work with them. We have to do new things. I agree with what everybody is saying. I just think we need to be careful. And I had one last thing, and I just can't remember, unfortunately. Sorry.
Pas grave. Et nous avons Marc. Marc William a demandé la parole. Marc. Sinon, on passe à Sylvie et on revient sur Marc. Sylvie? Ah, Marc.
Hello,
Voilà.
can you hear me now? Right.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Right. The point I wanted to make is this. AIIC has a definite reputational edge worldwide in terms of the quality of our service. That is something that we can and should be leveraging in this world where we're being thrown in distance interpreting into effectively a worldwide marketplace where it doesn't matter where you are, we're all competing just on price. What we should be doing is removing the ability of platforms to commoditize our services, to avoid our being Uberized, as it were. And what we should be doing is approving platforms, not letting the platforms approve us by giving us little badges and tokens. Are we able to push buttons? We should be saying, these platforms give us what we need as interpreters in order to be able to do our jobs, and not have the boot on the other foot. It is, we should be saying, are you going to give us what we need? And that part of that is removing the badging. And if you will do it, then we will approve you for use in AIIC events. And that is the way we should be putting things on, not the other way around. That's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Marc. Je pense que tu as tout à fait raison, mais qu'on a été un peu surpris par la pandémie. À savoir, l'AIIC a quand même vérifié les aspects techniques de plateforme, mais c'est vrai qu'on s'est peut-être peu, sinon rien soucié des aspects éthiques, commercialisation, etc. Et on s'est vraiment fait surprendre par ce phénomène Et effectivement, ça a mené à la situation qu'on connaît actuellement avec les marketplaces, les tarifs au rabais, et puis la situation d'un grand marché international sans aucune règle, où les gens, guidés par la peur, comme on a dit, se sont vus accepter des conditions qu'ils n'auraient jamais songé à accepter dans le passé. Et on a Sylvie qui avait demandé la parole.
Okay. I think, I mean, my question.
Pardon, Sylvie, j'ai coupé votre micro.
Okay.
Désolé.
Okay. I would like to come back to this idea of a premium. As much as I like it, unfortunately, I mean, you're in favor. It'd be lovely to put a gold badge on us and for people to recognize it, accept it. But we are offering something that is so intangible. It's not like if you're offering first class on a plane and the leg room and the special food, etc. They cannot recognize really what they are paying for. Everybody says, oh, but I can cope with this. This is the best. I mean, I know I've recruited. I have my own private clients. And when it comes down to it, they will say, oh, yes, but we took so and it worked. And it, you know, I think it would be lovely, but we would have to really be like what Rolls-Royce is to the car world before we can actually sell it like that. Yes, if we were the Rolls-Royces of the interpreting profession, which we know we are, but we are not recognized everywhere as such yet. And people, I don't know if people, if you can put it off, be great. Meanwhile, I think, like some have said it, we are at a crossroads. We are beginning a new area in the history of the world, like in 1918, after the First World War and the big Spanish flu. Suddenly, all the horses had disappeared from the roads. 1 million horses died in the killing fields. I know you're laughing.
What are you saying?
But the car took over. Nobody would have given the cars a chance to sort of take over overnight the way it did. And suddenly, because I remember an old lady saying to me, well, okay, it was decades ago, where have all the horses gone? Well, dear, the car has taken over because we had no choice. Kodak has disappeared. It was the
Thank you very
first in
much,
its
Sylvie.
market, you know, because it didn't believe in this digital new world.
No.
That's all
Thank you, Sylvie. We have to keep
Thank-
going with the list. Rafaela?
Yes, I just wanted to say that this proves that we don't believe in the AIIC brand ourselves. And this shouldn't be the case. We should be convinced that we are a premium brand. And it starts from here. We should be fully aware of this. And I think, and I want to answer to what Moira Pujol said on the chat. She asked, what do the platforms tend to gain from having us as a partner? Well, I think there is a lot they tend to benefit, and this was clear from day one. They've always tried to have AIIC interpreters on their roster. So I think it's a win-win situation. Of course, it has to be further analyzed and we have to see all the pros and cons. There is a lot of work involved in this, but I can see what the benefits are for both parties. And maybe if we will be starting by selecting the platforms that we like, those that offer the tools that we need to do our work as we want, those that make a quality interpretation possible. And then we can also, and this will be used to leverage them and to nudge them to do what we need. And then it'll be a way of, as somebody said on the chat, become even more aspirational for non-AIIC interpreters. They want to become part of this premium class family. So there are so many things that I see that should be further analyzed, of course, but I think platforms would be happy to have this.
Steve asks for the floor. Please, Steve.
Yes, thanks, Sergio. I guess I want to gently counter the idea that Rafaela suggests that somehow we don't believe in the AIIC brand, or we don't believe in the AIIC ethic of quality if we express these kinds of views. I believe in the AIIC brand, but we are not a commercial operator. We haven't been. If we want to become one, that's a different story. I don't think we can dream of being premium in a Amazon model, because we're not going to deliver packages more quickly. I think if we want to talk about the demon of Uber to the taxis, we have to say, well, are we going to be Black X Ubers? Are we going to be the one that somebody's going to pay more for because they know that this somehow will give them a ride in a luxury car? That's not what we are. We're quality, we're proven experience, we're vetted by our peers, but we are not prepared to have the language combinations, as we also heard from Beth, in all of the markets in which we seek to operate. I think we have to be careful about not being myopic enough to think that somehow our influence is based on our being recognized as AIIC. We know that, but we have to translate that into the language of our buyers and of our customers.
Merci beaucoup, Steve. Et nous avons également Manuel. Je pense que ce sera le dernier dans ce débat. Raphaël, tu me corriges, parce qu'il faut qu'on commence on s'approche des conclusions, on va dire. Manuel.
Merci, Sergio. I thought I'd share with you all something that I was made privy to in the old days when the FTC debate was raging, and which changed to a considerable extent my Weltanschauung, my worldview. Namely, when we're now talking of premium interpreters and quality and how to distinguish ourselves. And the argument that came to me from the United States was, well, you don't always buy the top range of Scotch or a Rolls when you want to buy a car, do you? Why shouldn't consumers be allowed to do the same? And this, I must admit, was something that I had never considered. To me, as an interpreter, the best possible interpreter would always be the best possible solution. But I was made to understand that this is not the case, because we don't do it as citizens. When we go buy pasta, we don't always buy the best pasta. Well, we might, because pasta is not that expensive, but certainly not when it comes to motor vehicles or something like that. So just wanted to share this with all of you, because I found it worthwhile to include it in my worldview. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup, Manuel. Je pense que nous pouvons interrompre maintenant les prises de parole. Ça a été un débat très intéressant, certes, et puis je pense que ce n'est pas fini ici, mais bon, pour beaucoup parmi nous, ça fait une très longue journée depuis ce matin à 8 heures. Donc, Raphaël aura le mot de la fin, et je pense que peut-être les collègues du comité permanent peuvent rallumer leur caméra, comme ça on les voit, et éventuellement nos interprètes. Il faut, pour ne pas oublier de les remercier, je demande déjà un applaudissement à distance pour Chris et Françoise qui nous ont prêté voix forte, on va dire, cet après-midi, et ainsi que Hugo et Félix. Merci beaucoup à tous les quatre, et puis le mot de la fin sera pour Rafaela.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you again to the interpreters. We want them to be visible and recognized. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a it's been a very long day for us. We've been up since early hours this morning, but it's been really interesting. I think please let us know if this format worked fine for you, if you found it useful. Also, remember, not everyone has signed up for the PRIMS mailing list. If you're interested in our activities, please make sure that when you go to your personal profile on the AIIC page, you tick the box and you express your wish to be informed about PRIMS activities. Otherwise, you will not be receiving our mails and our updates. So if you're interested, please do that. And what else should I say? Yes, we will send you a report of today's results and also about the previous session, so that you can have a very comprehensive picture of what our colleagues said during the other session. And we will disseminate, we will try and see whether we can send it to all those who have registered for the meeting. So just let us know what you think about this session. I don't know whether we will have the strength to organize another one, because it takes a lot of work. And I hope we won't have time to organize it, because we're busy working for money. So let us know. And if we don't see online again, I hope to see as many of you in Istanbul. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Can I take the floor for just 1 second, please? I want to thank, on behalf of the PRIMS committee, Rafaela, because she is always thanking us. And now it's the time for us to thank her.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I just wanted to say that Martin deserves a special medal. He was up at 3 a.m. for the morning session. Thanks, Martin.
2:30.
Even worse. Okay.
Hero.
Yeah, you're the hero of today, Martin. Thank you, guys. This was really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure.
Yeah, have a great remainder of the weekend, whatever's left of it. Bye-bye.
Flat out.
Tenemos, so people are still there. Is there a way to remove participants?
I am removing them manually.
Okay.
Yes, you go to
Okay.
more, remove.
Hay que hacerlo uno por uno.
Sí.
Pauso la grabación, ¿eh? ¿Os parece?
Sí, sí.
Dale.
Detengo la grabación, mejor dicho.